Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. She vanished in a trail of lightning. When I brought Sasha here and introduced her to everyone, something I had not expected had happened. Flashback, I am ready, Lord Felix. I looked at Sasha, who had 3 suitcases next to her. She really didn't have much, huh? Is everything else at your mansion? Sasha nodded. Yes. Alright, we can go to your mansion in a few days then, perhaps after you settle in a bit and I introduce you to everyone. Sasha nodded. Thank you for moving my mansion for me. It's no problem. It's just me and you here at the moment, as everyone else already went to follow on my orders. It's best if we don't leave my territory without any of its powerhouses for long periods of time. Ah. Sasha bowed. I apologize for wasting your time, Lord Felix. I waved her off. It's fine. I didn't mind waiting for you. I don't have much else to do in the first place. I looked back at the table where I was working. I picked up the drawing I made with a potential design for a golem. Somehow, it seems Sasha got a peek at it. Whoa. Is that a golem design? Sasha asked with excitement. I looked at her oddly but nodded. Yeah, while I was waiting, I just came up with a quick design. Sasha asked if she could get a closer look at it, and she examined it in detail before she began making some adjustments. This is a great design, Lord Felix. Where did you get it from? My mind flashed back to the Cell saga of Dragon Ball Z. I had blatantly ripped off Cell and designed him as a Magisteel golem due to boredom. I guess the idea just appeared in my mind? I said, slightly unsure of myself. It looked as if stars had appeared in Sasha's eyes. Whoa. As expected of a demon lord. I coughed lightly. Well, you can have the design if you want. Really? Thank you, Lord Felix. Hee, so many modifications I can make. I ignored Sasha's mad rambling and just snapped my fingers, teleporting us back to Azeroth. That seemed to bring Sasha back to sanity. Her gaze snapped to me. Instant teleportation? Such a thing has only been theorized but thought to be impossible due to the sheer amount of power and understanding over space and time necessary to achieve such a feat. Even Master Gadra couldn't wrap his head around it. Or maybe not. You have proven that instant teleportation is indeed possible, Lord Felix. Said Sasha with zeal in her eyes. All of a sudden, Sasha's dilated eyes shrunk in realization. I apologize for getting distracted. Sasha said as she coughed lightly. Well, at least she can regain control over herself quickly. I guess I asked for this when I recruited a mad scientist type. It's fine. I guess you're just very enthusiastic about your craft. Sasha nodded. Master Gadra was always very interested in the art of creating golems, and some of that enthusiasm has passed on to me. And spatial magic has always been a bit of a side hobby of mine. Well, perhaps you will have fun exploring the ruins that lay beneath this castle. I also have a reward center that my military has access to, allowing them to exchange points they receive for various things for magic, arts, sword arts, and everything else in between. You can exchange for things in it for points. Ruins? Reward center? She exclaimed, the excitement returning to her eyes, almost making them sparkle. I nodded. The reward center is a way to motivate those under me to work hard in the hopes of receiving points, and with those points, they can increase their individual combat power. There are some pretty powerful arts stored there. Distortion Field is available. That's an art that is capable of influencing a battle at the ultimate level. If one can master Distortion Field, they are practically invincible against any under disaster class. When I was an archdemon, I think only Hollow Purple could have possibly gotten through a Distortion Field, and even then, that's a bit iffy. Distortion Field is that broken, only the top levels of this world could hope to bypass it, and that's not even considering its far more overpowered version, Dimension Fault. I'm sure as hell not going to include that in the reward center. Distortion Field is more than enough. Of course, the instructions for such an art are not freely available. In order to learn it, one must have the points necessary, and then I will personally transfer the data over to Odin while also placing a seal on the person, restricting them from sharing the knowledge. I didn't want ultimate hearts just floating around after all. Sasha brought her hand to her chin in thought as she nodded. All Magian are interested in power. It is understandable that applying such a reward system will increase overall work efficiency and work happiness. She muttered. I nodded. Yeah, that was why I wanted such a thing to be created. Happy subordinates are more likely to be loyal and work harder. Then there are ruins that remain from the time when Khazlim ruled these lands. From the brief investigation I've done, there is some advanced technology down below, I just don't care enough to explore it. Perhaps you can get something out of the ruins. I continued. How exciting. Underground ruins can be home to ancient technology that hasn't been seen for centuries. Well, perhaps you can use the stuff you find down there to help advance my kingdom. Sasha nodded with a determined glint in her eyes. Of course. Good. Now let me show you your temporary room. I'll give you some territory near my capital city and set up a teleportation circle so you can teleport here freely. Territory? Like a noble? I shrugged my shoulders. You can look at it that way, but without the political power. Am I a noble? My kingdom has no nobles like that of the human kingdoms. Of course I could easily establish such a system, but why would I distribute my power to others when I can just have my subordinates manage this kingdom and the various territories? In the first place, most of the inhabitants of my kingdom are focused in the capital city, Emerita. There are only some villages out and about and the demons under me carefully monitor those. Originally, the residents of Gistov resided beneath the castle. There are multiple levels underneath my castle. There is the top level, which is where the majority of the residents used to stay, and below that were the middle and bottom levels, which were sealed off. I only briefly explored the middle level. There were various golems down there, each with unique grade equipment, likely due to evolving over a long period of time. I had planned to explore the underground ruins at some point, but I'll just leave that to Sasha. I don't care much for the ancient technology beneath my castle. All of it belonged to Kagli in the past, and look what happened to her, so while I'm sure there is some advanced stuff down there, I doubt there is anything game-changing. I've also had the capital city expanded since I took over. Clayman originally never built a city around his castle, likely due to the surrounding environment being a pain to build around. I, however, wanted a city built around my castle, so with the help of Rimmeru's orcs and my own newly trained workers, a bare-bones city was quickly built. Some terraforming was necessary, but that wasn't difficult for me to do. Since then, the city has been developing more and more. We are completely self-sufficient due to the vast fertile grounds that I created with nature magic. Some of the dark elves residing in the top level had moved out and into the capital city, while some chose to remain in the area they were familiar with. It wasn't a big deal to me. The capital city was already occupied by hundreds of thousands of Magian, most that had come from the outskirts of my own territory. I'd like to think I've done right by my new citizens. They were practically trapped in the top level by Clayman after all. He hadn't seen them for centuries. According to one of the elders, they were just left to rot. That's likely a large part of the reason there was no resistance to me taking over this territory. I looked at Sasha, who was still freaking out about being handed a territory. Don't freak out so much. The territory won't be large at all. Rather, just think of it as some land I'm giving you as a signing bonus. There won't be any citizens or anything you'll have to take care of either. Sasha nodded. Got it. Thanks. No problem. Now let's go. I showed Sasha to her room and had her leave her luggage there. Now, let me introduce you to some of my subordinates. You already met most of them at the festival, but I do have some more that it would be useful to get to know. I said as I led Sasha toward where I sensed Feel. Feel and Shro were both basically Raiden's second in command. According to Raiden, they took to her maid training well and were loyal. They were the best of the bunch in Raiden's own words. In the first place, I had named them, so loyalty wasn't even a question. Though it's good that Raiden is making more friends, if Feel and Shro could be considered friends. The only people Raiden is close to are Siko and Kurami. She wasn't as close to the demoness trio, but she had a healthy amount of respect for them and them for her. In the end, before I named Raiden, she had the intelligence of a dog, so it would take time for her to develop her own being further. My naming of her is what gave a boost to her soul and allowed her to develop an ego, which has continuously grown over time. In order to get an ultimate skill she will need to develop further, and making more friends and connections is a step in the right direction. It didn't take me long to find Feel cleaning up one of the hallways. Feel immediately noticed me and bowed. Lord Felix. I gave her a nod. Feel, I am here to introduce you to a new coworker of yours. This is Sasha. She will be leading the science department. Feel bowed lightly to Sasha. It is nice to meet you, Miss Sasha. Aha, no need to call me Miss, just Sasha is fine. Phil nodded. As you wish, Sasha. Well, that's all. See you around, Phil. I waved. Phil is one of Raiden's lieutenants, Sasha, so she knows this castle pretty well. If you need anything, you can go to her. Now, I'll introduce you to Raiden's other lieutenant. Miss Raiden has some crazy strong subordinates, huh? I was feeling pressured just by being near Phil. Commented Sasha. I nodded. Well, I did name them, and it seems they have been training as well. Raiden is not known to go easy when it comes to training her underlings. The Dark Elf Phil Nervalin's existence points have been recorded at 371,125. Got it, thanks, Odin. Odin has a pretty easy time getting someone's existence points, thanks to the data she got from Small World as well as Millimai. While Odin hasn't analyzed Small World enough to recreate it due to its complexity, she has analyzed it enough to figure out how some parts of the skill worked. But damn, that's pretty strong. Stronger than most Enlightened, and approaching phrase ONIP, which is at around 400,000. Enlightened starts at 100,000 DP, and Raiden is really training up some monsters. As expected of my maid. It didn't take me long to find Shra, who was cleaning up one of the many rooms in my castle. Lord Felix. Bowed Shra. Shra, this is Sasha, one of my new subordinates. It's nice to meet you, Sasha. Responded Shra as she approached Sasha and grabbed her hand. While Phil was a bit more serious, Shra was a lot more bubbly and outgoing. Nice to meet you too, Shra. Sasha seemed to have trouble dealing with outgoing people like Shra. Are you one of Master's new subordinates then? Asked Shra. Sasha nodded. Yes, Lord Felix gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. When she says it like that, it makes it seem like I pressured her into working with me, which I didn't. But Shra, being her usual self, just nodded with a happy smile. I'm sure you'll like working here. Now I need to get back to work before Miss Raiden gets upset at me. No one likes it when she is upset. Sasha nodded. Okay, I'll see you around, I guess? Shra nodded. Yup. Now that introductions are done, let's go. I still have one more person to introduce you to. Sasha nodded. Goodbye, Lord Felix. Waved Shra. See ya. Shra has also grown powerful, too, from what I'm sensing. Raiden really didn't go easy on them. The Dark Elf Shra Greenwood's existence points has been recorded at 357,923, so she is slightly below Phil then, though she is still very powerful. You seriously have some scary subordinates, boss. Do you mind if I call you boss? I nodded. Boss is fine. Sasha nodded. First, there were all the subordinates you brought to the festival. I almost had a heart attack when I met them. Just the faint aura they were releasing felt terrifying. Now, while those maids don't feel as powerful, they are still super scary. It almost felt like I was in the presence of Master Gadra again. The majority of beings in this world aren't capable of perfectly controlling their aura like me. Among my subordinates, only Arcuaid, Megaman, and Lalitina are capable of completely concealing their aura. The rest give off an aura, though it is very faint. It's a damn good thing that I have such good control over my own aura, thanks to Odin. If I fully released my entire aura, every single being in my territory and likely beyond would die, except perhaps beings on the level of my direct subordinates. Spiritual pressure is a very real threat when dealing with powerful beings in this world. If I were to go to a material world with no supernatural energy, then releasing my entire aura would easily destroy the entire planet and beyond. The cardinal world really is scary when looked at from an outside point of view. I wonder how Sasha has dealt with those three demoness. They are primordials, after all. And Sasha freaked out quite a bit once she learned that Rain was a primordial before outright passing out when I told her I had 3 primordials of my own under me. I'm sure everything went fine. Who are we meeting next, boss? Asked Sasha. We are going to meet the Undead White King, who is basically the first line of defense. He and his undead patrol the area around my capital city and make sure to deal with any invaders and the like. I wanted you to meet him since if you want to explore the underground ruins, you'll have to go through him since he has some of his undead stationed at the entrance to the ruins. Adelman is, of course, incapable of completely monitoring my entire territory, but he and his undead still do a good job. Thanks to Arcuaid's recruitment efforts, the military has grown by leaps and bounds, giving us the numbers to have squadrons regularly patrolling various areas in my territory and giving Azeroth a pretty secure defense. An undead, huh? And a White King, too? That species of undead is known to generally be in the disaster class range. Said Sasha. I nodded. Yeah, Adelman is pretty powerful. Adelman? Whispered Sasha. Weird. Before Sasha could ask anything, I snapped my fingers, teleporting us to where I sensed Adelman. My lord. I looked down to find Adelman kneeling with and Albert kneeling behind him. Hello, Adelman, no need to kneel. Adelman nodded and rose up along with Hill and Albert. It is wonderful to see you in good health, Lord Felix, said Albert. I nodded. It's good to see you as well, Albert. I see you've gotten your new power under control. Albert nodded. Yes. After being granted a name, I trained myself to better make use of this new power you have granted me. I nodded. That's good. I then turned to Hill. And what about you? After naming Hill, she evolved into a Dragon Lord-class dragon, again a dragon, and a being imbued with death. Hill looked at me with devotion shining in her eyes. I am well, Lord Felix. I am making use of the power you have granted me to protect your territory. I nodded. Thanks for that. I appreciate the hard work you three have been putting in. Adelman waved his hands frantically. There is no need for thanks, my lord. We are simply doing our duty as your faithful worshippers. I internally cringed hearing that. I see. Well, I just came here to introduce you to a new subordinate of mine. I gestured to her. Adelman gave Sasha a bony smile. Why, hello there, young lady, it's nice to meet you. What is your name? Ah, I'm Sasha. She introduced herself, fiddling with her fingers slightly as she looked at Adelman. Adelman looked at Sasha oddly. Sasha, huh? What a coincidence. I used to know a girl named Sasha. She was my good friend Gadra's student. Ah. Mr. Adelman? Is that really you? Yelled Sasha. Oh. Is that you, Sasha? Ho ho, I remember you used to be such a tomboy. Look at you all grown up. I'm sure Gadra is proud. Wah. You're really that Adelman? Master Gadra's closest friend? You aren't lying, are you? Huh, so they know each other? Gadra is the court mage of the Eastern Empire, according to Sasha. That's something to think about. That could be either a potential risk or a potential gain. Indeed, that is me. How is old Gadra doing now? Asked Adelman. Oh, he is the court mage for the Eastern Empire now. Sasha said excitedly. Adelman nodded. I see, I see. Ah. I apologize for getting distracted, Lord Felix. Punish me as you see fit. I sighed. It's fine, I don't mind watching a reunion. Dealing with so many yes men is getting to be a pain. I can see why Rimuru encourages his subordinates to treat him as a friend rather than a master. Being surrounded by only yes men can be exhausting. I'm fine with my direct subordinates as they don't go overboard, but Adelman literally sees me as his god and makes no attempts to hide that fact. Ah, your generosity knows no bounds, my lord, said Adelman, placing his hands on his chest where his heart would be. Even Sasha was looking at Adelman weirdly. Adelman then turned to Sasha. Ho ho, you've grown so much. Remember those times you said you'd marry me when you would grow up, ho ho ho. Adelman teased Sasha. Adelman even laughs like an old man. Gah. Don't bring up stuff like that. It doesn't count. Sasha shouted, blushing slightly in embarrassment. Well, since you two are getting along, I'll leave you to be, later. I said as I teleported back to my castle. Sasha, boss totally forgot that she didn't know how to teleport without preparation, didn't he? How was she supposed to get back? Flashback. And, ever since I learned of Adelman and Sasha's connection to the court mage of the Eastern Empire, I've been considering what to do with that connection. The Eastern Empire hasn't made its intention for world conquest subtle. They even had a failed invasion on the Great Jura Forest a century or so ago. Of course, they couldn't even touch Veldora, as if numbers would be enough to take on a true dragon. That's part of the reason I'm so interested in meeting this new version of Chloe and Hinata. Veldora may have been weaker than his current self back then, but they still managed to seal a true dragon, a never-before-seen feat. Still, if the Eastern Empire's goals remain the same, then perhaps I can use Adelman to acquire more information. I don't doubt Adelman's loyalties, we have a soul connection that allows Odin to monitor them carefully. And then I have a demon with a shadow motion skill residing in Sasha's shadow as well, just in case. Having a greater demon in her shadow at all times is as good a way as any to have her monitored 24/7. Perhaps it isn't very moral, but since when did that matter? Morals are for people that can fulfill their responsibilities without resorting to more dubious means. I was a demon now, my morals were more flexible. Whether I was always like this or it was my nature as a demon didn't matter, it was just how I was now. Trust is earned, not given, and while Sasha does seem trustworthy, you can never know in this world. Even with great sage, Rimuru didn't realize the shady stuff Ecchi was into until some time later. Some people really are just that good at acting. Before I could get lost in thought, I heard Raiden appear behind me. Master, she is on her way here. I nodded. Thanks, Raiden. It is my duty. I simply nodded as we waited in silence. It didn't take long for the double door to my throne room to open. The double door itself was guarded by two archdemons, two archdemons that met the standards of Arcuaid, Megaman, and Lalatina, so I'm sure they were more than sufficient. I watched as the doors closed behind Sasha. I am ready, boss. I nodded. Good. I stood up and approached her. Do you know the spatial coordinates of your mansion? Sasha nodded. I do, but there may be an issue. It is located within the territory of the Kingdom of Farminus. Ah, Yom's Kingdom. That's fine. I doubt you'll mind my visit. Sasha nodded. If you're sure. Once Sasha gave me the coordinates, I placed my hand on Sasha's shoulder. I looked at Raiden. I'll be back soon. Raiden nodded. I will await your return, Master. And with that, I teleported us. I looked around the area that we appeared in. Sasha seemed to have given me the coordinates of the courtyard of her mansion. I noticed Sasha was looking at me in shock. That was impressive, boss. I don't think I've seen or heard of anyone teleporting such a vast distance, and that too without any prep time. I tilted my head. Thanks for the compliment, I guess. It was quite weird to be complimented repeatedly on something I considered incredibly basic. Ripping, bending, and manipulating space was fairly easy for most powerful beings in this world, doubly so for me. Sasha really was sheltered, huh? TSK. Kids these days don't go out and experience the world. It seems you have a guest. I voiced out. Huh? I do? I nodded. I sensed someone at the front of the mansion waiting outside the gate. That's weird. I don't think I had any appointments. Do you mind if I go check it out? I nodded. Go for it. I'll be wandering around. Got it, I won't be long, boss. Once Sasha was gone, I went inside the mansion and made my way to where I sensed her lab was. I attempted to open the door but found it was locked, so I simply teleported through the door and into Sasha's lab. I went through the various artifacts that Sasha had left lying around, and after 10 minutes of that, Sasha came back. Ah. I was looking for you, boss. Sasha said. I was just looking around. Who was at the gate? Ah, that was just Rezin. Responded Sasha. I tilted my head. Rezin? The court mage of Farminus? Why was he here? Oh, well, we were both students of Master Gadra, so we have kept in contact. In fact, it's because of him that I got this fancy mansion to stay in. I nodded. I see. Did you tell him you were going to be leaving? Sasha nodded. Yeah, he seemed fine with it. I nodded. Good. Alright, are you ready to move this plot of land? Sasha nodded with interest shining in her eyes. Yes, I'd like to see how you will go about doing something like this. I don't think it's going to be as flashy as you are expecting. This will still be a momentous occasion that I would like to observe. I shrugged my shoulders. Go for it. I snapped my fingers, teleporting both Sasha and me outside of the mansion. I extended my demonic wings and took to the skies. I looked down at the mansion from above before bending space, connecting the mansion to the plot of land I had given to Sasha. In front of our eyes, the entire mansion vanished, leaving behind the foundation. I had the foundation already prepared beforehand. I'll have some of my workers make sure to connect all the utilities. Even in the cardinal world, toiletries and whatnot are fairly popular with the wealthy. So, of course, I would have access to the proper equipment to set all that up. With the help of magic, none of that should be difficult, though. I flew down towards Sasha, who was standing next to where her mansion used to be. Well, that's a new one. I heard her mutter. She quickly noticed my descent. I'm just going to assume that you can do anything, boss. It's better for my health that way. She sighed. I nodded. I'll have some workers get your mansion fully set up. It shouldn't take long. Sasha nodded and gave me a thumbs up. Thanks, boss. No problem. Do you have anything else to do while you are here? Sasha shook her head. Nope. I've already informed all my customers about my move. I nodded. Alright then. And with that, we left. Leon Cromwell, Leon sighed as he leaned back on his throne. Looking up at the grand ceiling above him, he took a moment to himself. Ruling an entire continent was not easy if one wished to be an effective ruler. Every decision he made affected the lives of everyone around him. If he took a break, then he wouldn't be able to forgive himself if something happened. Did you wish for tea, my lord? He turned to his Black Knight, one of the few people he could trust with his entire heart, and shook his head. No. Claude nodded and then continued to silently stand guard in front of him. He didn't need any guards, but it was about the image he gave off. If any random muck could challenge him, then his reputation would be damaged. And though he didn't care for his reputation much anymore, a bad reputation would mean inviting more trouble his way. At least that annoying John is finally gone. He muttered, rubbing his temples. Dealing with John was a constant source of irritation, stretching his already thin patience. Every moment dealing with John was a moment lost. It was time that could be better spent managing his territory. Or, more importantly, pursuing the thing that mattered the most to him. His search for her. His search for Chloe. His search for his childhood friend was his motivation for many things he had done in this new world. He knew he had committed a sin by spreading the method for incomplete summonings, something which practically guaranteed the summoning of children. He had created an inbuilt mechanism that required the permission of the other worlder in question to be summoned, yet it was still abused by others throughout the world. But he did what he could to lessen the burden of his sin. He always made sure to provide all the summoned children he purchased from that shady organization a good life. He had them trained in magic and various arts, everything they would need to live a decent life in this world. Some chose to settle for a regular citizen's life, while some like Alrose and Claude wished to serve him. He didn't deserve their loyalty, not truly, but he accepted it. The ones under his command were generally otherworlders he saved just before death. They tended to accept his offers and he saw no reason to not help them after the ritual had already been used. Yet throughout all that, he still hadn't summoned Chloe. Back in their old world he was the heir to a prestigious noble house in Europe, and Chloe was the daughter of his father's guard captain. They quickly got along and would do everything together. He did not take it well when they appeared in this world and Chloe vanished right in front of him. From the moment he realized what had happened he made it his life's goal to reunite with Chloe. She was stuck in this world somewhere alone. He met the elemental queen Ranmaris and gained her blessing as well as a contract with an elemental of light. Through various trials he became a true hero, until eventually turning into a demonoid due to it being more beneficial for his goals. When the time came for him to take on the path of becoming a demon lord, his elemental of light abandoned him, even through their countless years of battle and partnership. Though, at the very least, he was able to keep the abilities and power he had gained when he awakened as a true hero. That betrayal did somewhat sting. He and his elemental had fought together for decades at that point after all, but he had to move on. He had a goal he wished to achieve. After that he declared himself a demon lord, something which caught the attention of Demon Lord Kazlim, the Curse Lord himself. The Curse Lord quickly attacked him with his army, something that annoyed Leon as the Curse Lord had not even bothered to converse with him beforehand, and so he single-handedly killed the Curse Lord and his entire army while also taking over his territory. Shortly after that he summoned perhaps one of his greatest regrets, Shizu Aizawa. He had her contract with the greater elemental of fire, Ifrit, to save her life from the wounds and burns she had suffered before her summoning. With her strained relationship with Ifrit, she was not suited to a regular life. She was bound to erupt and be consumed at any moment, so he decided to train her as his personal guard to keep an eye on her. However, even then, he quickly noticed that she was not suited to be a guard. She had so much potential that he didn't want to keep her trapped. In a way, he could see a fragment of himself when he used to be a hero in her. She deserved to see the world and enjoy herself. And so when the hero Granoa attacked, he had left her behind in the hopes that the hero would take her in, to let her experience the life he thought she deserved. Thankfully, Granoa took her in and personally trained her, giving her a way to keep Ifrit under her control for good. After that he fled to his new territory, a continent across the sea that was far larger than his previous territory. A place where he could make a home for himself and his subordinates. The volcano located at the center of the continent was also a resource that he made use of, many valuable ores laid around it, and the ash was not an issue due to the various barriers they had placed. He had access to a vast amount of gold thanks to this, and thanks to his close relationship with Sarian he could easily gather all the supplies he needed when he first began creating El Dorado. He had created an utopia where all his citizens were happy. He was glad he was still capable of doing some good. Leon's thoughts wandered back to Shizu. Since the hero took Shizu in, Leon had kept an eye on her. He recalled how proud he felt when he heard about the moniker she had been granted, the Conqueror of Flames. A gaudy title, but one that was well deserved. He did not know what relationship that slime had with Shizu. At first he had thought the slime had killed her, but he quickly realized that likely was not true. Why would the slime have been glaring at him in anger at the Walpurgis if he had killed Shizu? It did not make sense, and so Leon assumed that the slime and Shizu had some sort of intimate relationship, and the slime was upset at him on her behalf. Something Leon could not blame him, or Shizu, for. Then there was that shady organization, Cerberus. They were an extremely suspicious organization, but Leon still made use of them as it would be bothersome to erase them. Though he was quite unhappy with the so-called merchants that visited him last. That elf and the clown were both incredibly suspicious. Leon preferred the previous merchant, Damrata. He took his role much more seriously. Still, Leon's suspicion wasn't enough for him to stop exploiting them. They were the easiest way to acquire otherworlder children after all. His hope was that eventually Chloe would be summoned as he had analyzed the phenomena that had occurred back when he first appeared in this world. It was his hypothesis that the moment he and Chloe appeared in this world she was summoned elsewhere. It was quite sad to him that the humans in the West were so willing to sacrifice their own for mere material wealth. As a former hero, Leon still felt saddened by humanity's choices, but he was no longer a hero, and so he would not cast judgment on them as he previously would have. If anything, he was the main reason the problem had spiraled so far. So, even if he were a hero, he would not be able to judge them. Then there was that demon. He did not think any being would tame John, but the demon had proved him wrong. Leon's territory was somewhat connected to the demon realm, due to that one could always sense a heavy demonic aura and intense magicules radiating in the surroundings. Sometimes some demons even passed through the Hell Gate and attempted to disrupt the Order of El Dorado. Of course, since the demons remained unincarnated, his knights were capable of handling them, even the occasional archdemon that invaded. John, however, was another beast altogether. The most he could hope for was to hold her off until she got bored. Sure, he could have eliminated her completely, but the amount of collateral damage would destroy everything he had created on El Dorado, something he would not allow. And as a primordial, she would be reborn eventually and come back to El Dorado with a vengeance the common populace would not survive. And so he was forced to simply bear the brunt of John's attention. Since John was not incarnated, she was somewhat limited in what she could do, however her mere existence was enough to limit him from going anywhere unless absolutely necessary. He had no idea when John would come out and rampage after all, and if he was not there to quell her, then he feared what John would get up to in his territory. If he was not around and John decided to come out to play, Leon knew she could single-handedly destroy the entirety of El Dorado. Haha, indeed, Lord Leon. Her disappearance has been a blessing. I would have preferred to deal with that rebellious demon myself. She did reject your offers for peace after all. But I am much too weak to do such a thing," said Claude. Leon sighed, hearing his knight. Indeed, she was a troublesome opponent. She would fire off extremely destructive nuclear magic without a care for the consequences. I can only pity Demon Lord Felix for taking in such an unruly subordinate. Leon did not think that Joan of all people would be a very good subordinate. She was far too wild, too untamed. She would ignore orders and just do whatever she wished. She would cause as much destruction as possible and laugh everything off. The usurper of Black even went ahead and named John on top of properly incarnating her for some stupid reason. Leon did not understand what Demon Lord Felix was thinking. Going by Guy's own words, the other daemon that was Felix's other attendant was also another primordial, the primordial of White, blank. She was also named and incarnated. That demon had two such beings under him, something that made Leon extremely wary of him. From the power John had radiated after being named, she had grown far stronger than before. To the point that he may even need to get a little serious to deal with her, something he never needed to do in the past. Oh, I do wonder what kind of character is necessary to tame such a vile demon. I do not think she would bow down to just anyone. Leon nodded. He was powerful, that is for sure. Felix White did not bother concealing his power at the Walpurgis. It was as if he was declaring that he would take on any who disagreed with his attendance. Arrogant, but understandable. So the Hell Gate is finally closed, huh? Claude voiced out. Leon nodded. Indeed. I went to check on the area once I sensed the demonic aura suddenly disappear. Such a thing has never happened before. The gate was somehow dimensionally modified, resulting in the gate closing in on itself. I do not think it is possible to fix it unless one has an incredibly high mastery over spatial manipulation. He had sent his men to attempt to seal the Hell Gate in the past, but they were quickly rebuffed by the hordes of demons residing within. He didn't think someone like John would ever do such a thing, but he didn't think she would serve under anybody either. According to Guy, John was one of the primordial demons that could not be reasoned with. It was best to just never interact with her if possible. He shook his head. He wouldn't think further about John now that she was out of his hair. Tell me about what is going on in the main continent, Claude. Leon ordered. Claude nodded. We have discovered that an alliance between Ruberius, Tempest and Azeroth has been formed. With Dwargon and Sarian also being allied with Tempest and Azeroth. Sarian, huh? Muttered Leon. Perhaps I will go and visit Elmgia and see what she is thinking. Now that John was gone and the Hell Gate closed, he could actually afford to leave his territory without fear of returning to a massive crater. As you will, Lord Leon. I have also learned from our sources in the west that Demon Lord Rimuru has acquired 5 otherworlder children from the Free Guild. Leon tilted his head. 5 otherworlders, huh? That was interesting information, but nothing Leon would concern himself with further. While he did wish to show up in Tempest and verify who exactly those children were, he knew that interfering with another demon lord's business was taboo. It wasn't like Chloe was likely to be one of those children in the first place. He had been looking for her for centuries. Leon doubted she conveniently showed up somewhere that his eyes could not reach, and then conveniently ended up in the custody of another demon lord. No, such a thing was far too unlikely to occur. Still, he wished to meet with Elmgia at some point and learn what exactly she saw in Tempest to ally with them. Elmgia rarely made moves like this. He would have to finish everything urgent in his territory and then visit her. Elmgia Elrusarian, Irald. She called out. The head of her Magus guards appeared in front of her. Yes. Did you send out the message to Mother? Irald nodded. I did, but you know how she is. Who knows where she currently is, who knows when the message will even get to her. Elmgia sighed but nodded. Indeed, I am expecting to have to wait for some time. Her mother was many things, punctual was not one of them. So is it true then? Elmgia tilted her head and looked at her uncle curiously. Is what true then? Is brother truly still alive? Elmgia did not miss the small hint of longing in Irald's tone. Irald and her had both grown up hearing about the legendary Sarian, the true hero of the elves, doubly so for his daughter and his brother. His reputation was a lot to live up to. Both Irald and her were looking forward to meeting him, though that's if they could manage to restore him to his former self. When Elmgia thought of the Deathman, all she felt was sadness. The man may wear her father's face, but he did not have his memories, he did not remember their people, his wife, his unborn daughter. He might as well have been considered a different person. Hopefully her mother will be able to come up with a solution to his lost memories. Elmgia herself was fairly knowledgeable when it came to magic, but she couldn't even hold a candle when compared to her mother. Her mother was quite literally the strongest force sorcerer's dynasty Sarian had access to. An ultimate awakened was such a fearsome being that they would instantly become the trump card of even a highly developed dynasty like Sarian, and even if she was also an ultimate awakened, she knew her mother was more powerful. She focused back on Irald's question. Indeed, as far as I am able to tell, that being used to be my father. Irald sighed. To think that brother suffered such a fate. Elmgia shrugged her shoulders. We have heard of worse fates. At least he is alive with the hopes that we may be able to restore him to how he was previously. Irald nodded. That's true. Still, for that demon lord to have taken brother down is quite incredible. She nodded. When I met him, my instincts were warning him of the threat he possessed. Even when he was completely bound by some mysterious holy magic, he still felt threatening. Haha, it seems the stories weren't exaggerated then, huh? Irald joked. Elmgia nodded as she relaxed back into the couch she was sitting on. Indeed, now we can only wait for Mother's return. Chapter 126, The Dungeon Dominators. I yawned as I got out of bed. I gave Siko's ass a pat, causing her to moan out slightly. I chuckled before getting dressed for the day. It had been a few weeks since I was last in Tempest, and I'm already going back today. Though I don't really mind that, hanging out in Tempest was fun. I could cause as many issues as I wanted and have Rimuru deal with the fallout. Mahahaha. Was it my fault for taking advantage of him? Or was it his fault for letting me? The world would never know. Rimuru had said he figured out how exactly to get our idea from some time back working. Our idea to go into the dungeon as monsters and terrorize the adventurers inside. I imagined that it wasn't all that hard to figure out how to create an avatar with the emulated souls, but I'm also sure that Rimuru has been busy. He's had to get everything from the attack on Tempest repaired, as well as soothe any of the nobles and royals' bruised egos. I am somewhat excited to be one of the monsters in the dungeon. It sounds fun. Terrorizing innocent adventurers looking to make a quick buck sounds like a good way to spend my day. I snapped my fingers cleaning the room up as well as equipping some casual clothing. I gave a fond smile to Siko, who was still sleeping, and left my room. No reason to wake her up. The moment I stepped out, I found my maid waiting for me. Master. Good morning, Raiden. Good morning, Master. Did you wish to eat anything before you went to visit Lord Rimuru? I shook my head. Nah, if I want anything I'll just get something from one of the food stands. It's not like I can feel hungry in the first place. Raiden pouted hearing my words but nodded. Very well. I will inform everyone who wishes to meet you that you will be unavailable today. I nodded. Thanks for that. It is my duty, Master. Haha, I know. Anyways, I'm off now, see ya. With a wave, I vanished and appeared in the central plaza where I had my confrontation with Maria Bell. Practically all the damage I caused from that fight has already been fixed, even the collapsed buildings. Lord Felix. I wasn't surprised when I heard a voice come from behind me. Suka. I nodded. Lord Rimuru has sent me to inform you that he is in the control room of the dungeon. Suka informed. I nodded. Alright, thanks, Suka. Suka gave me a bow before sinking into the shadows below her, using her shadow motion skill to return to her post. Then, with a snap of my fingers, I teleported to the control room of the dungeon. I saw Rimuru was already waiting there with his legs kicked up on the table, eating some small cupcakes while appearing lost in thought. I don't think Shuna would approve of that. Rimuru jumped in surprise. Gah. Felix. That is my name, yes. Rimuru coughed lightly. Ah, I didn't think you would be here so soon. Communicating in and out of the dungeon can be a bit tough, something I'll have to fix. I shrugged my shoulders. We are technically in another dimension, so it does make sense. My gaze then wandered to the control panel next to Rimuru, which seemed to be displaying one of the streets in Tempest. I didn't know you recreated cameras. Rimuru looked at where I was looking. Ah, it's not exactly a camera, but it does the same thing but better. I tilted my head. Oh? What is it then? I used some spirit magic to recreate large water lenses shaped by water elementals all the way in the stratosphere. Then I sent out tiny slime body doubles that are connected to me through spatial domination and have them transmit everything to the control room. With those lenses, a magnified view can be displayed here in the control room, basically mimicking a camera. Huh, you can basically look all over the world then, huh? Rimuru nodded. Well, some barriers can block it, but it's still great. I can even deploy a supercharged Magito through the lenses from the control room. Hey, I imagine everyone would freak out if they knew you could send a death beam to their kingdom whenever you want. Rimuru looked to the side nervously. Ah, yeah, they probably would. Keep it a secret, please. Keep what a secret? I don't know anything. I said with a smile, causing Rimuru to let out a sigh of relief. Anyways, you said you got the whole dungeon avatar thing working? Rimuru nodded. Yeah, but before I explain, let me call Veldora and Ranmaris over. Could you grab Milim? Yeah, sure. I snapped my fingers, creating a portal to the exact spatial coordinates I knew Milim was at. Thanks to the soul corridor we now had, I could basically always know where she was, as well as various other benefits. Through the portal, I could see that Milim was sitting at her desk working on paperwork. It was quite weird to see Milim actually being productive. Really weird. Milim's territory has slowly been growing. Frey's territory, by default, is now considered part of Milim's territory. And thanks to Rimuru's help, Milim is having a fairly large palace built while the Harpy Nation is being practically entirely rebuilt. Milim's gaze snapped to the portal I had created. Ah, Felix. I knew you'd come to save me. Milim yelled as she skipped through the portal. I closed the portal and sighed. Frey is probably going to be upset with you. Frey was practically Milim's minder at this point, but she signed up for it. Milim pouted. I can deal with that later. For now, let's have some fun. I nodded. That's why I brought you here. As Milim and I were talking, Veldora, Rimuru, and Ranmaris all showed up. Sup Veldora. I greeted. My friend. Veldora yelled as he approached me. Gaha, I have heard from Rimuru that we will be exploring my domain today. Your domain? Ranmaris protested. Veldora coughed lightly. I mean our domain. Ranmaris nodded with a satisfied smile. That's right. You may be the king of the dungeon, but I created the dungeon. Rimuru sighed. Yes, we all know you're amazing, Ranmaris. He said in a monotone voice, but that was enough to earn a wide grin from the small fairy queen. It seems Rimuru has mastered the art of dealing with Ranmaris. Impressive. Let me take you to the laboratory. I'll explain everything once we are there. Rimuru said as he stood up. All four of us nodded as we followed along behind Rimuru. It didn't take us long to arrive at the laboratory. I spotted Vesta working with some of his lab assistants, and it was the second person I spotted who caused me to pause for a moment. Dino? Hearing me, Dino looked at me. For a moment, he pretended not to have heard me before sighing. He began to sluggishly approach us, scratching the back of his head. He gave me a nod. Felix. His gaze then wandered to Milim. I spotted a substantial amount of reverence and even hope in his eyes when he looked at Milim. He dipped his head slightly. Lady Milim. Milim tilted her head. I thought I told you to drop the lady every single time we interact, Dino. Dino laughed nervously. Aha. Well, sorry about that. I guess his reverence for Milim is not unfounded. She is the daughter of his deceased lord, after all. I could tell he had a unique skill as well as an ultimate skill, very impressive. As expected for one of the angels of origin, he's probably been around for billions of years at this point. I'm sure he has a vast amount of knowledge, and unlike Ranmaris, he hasn't forgotten any of it. Am I sensing things right, Odin? Correct. The fallen Dino has 400,000 DP. There is no way that can be true. He is one of the primordial angels. I refuse to believe his EP is below that of an awakened being. In that case, Dino may have a way to hide his true EP somehow. Interesting. I gave Dino a once-over. The guy was practically dead on his feet. He doesn't seem to be the type to seal his power to just look cool. Why are you here, Dino? Milim asked in her usual bubbly tone. Ah. Well, I was kicked out by Dagrul, so I went to Guy to see if I could stay with him. Dino sighed. But like the evil demon he is, he rejected me and told me to come here. Dino continued. And then even Rimuru is making me work now. Well, if you want to stay here, you have to work. Everyone in Tempest contributes something. Rimuru argued. Yeah. I'm even putting the work in Dino. Ramiris boasted. Dino's shoulders slumped. Ugh, but I don't wanna. If you want to make me work, make me a bed tester or a food critic. Milim patted Dino on the shoulder. Don't worry. You can do it, Dino. Dino groaned. Fine fine. With that, Dino went to Vesta and began working. Phew, thanks for that, Milim. I was worried he wasn't going to get anything done. Milim nodded with a smile. Dino may seem unreliable, but he comes through when it counts. Ahaha, is that so? Said Rimuru. Anyways, let me show you something. We followed Rimuru to his private portion of the laboratory. I noticed quite a few vessels made of magisteel being kept in an isolation chamber. What are those for, Rimuru? I asked while pointing to the magisteel skeletons. Rimuru looked at where I was pointing. Ah, Diablo said he wanted to recruit some demons, so I let him. Those are just the vessels I prepared to properly incarnate them. I nodded. Hey, he's copying me. Rimuru shrugged his shoulders. I don't know what goes on in that guy's head half the time, so maybe? Yeah, that guy can be pretty mysterious. I nod along. Even with Diablo being the primordial of my lineage, he is quite the oddity. I don't think I'll ever understand that guy. We made our way into Rimuru's lab, and he closed the door behind us, locking us in his lab. Rimuru then took out the emulated souls from his stomach. This is basically a soul container. It can act as a temporary vessel for us to mess around in the dungeon. Said Rimuru. Eh? That doesn't sound fun. Everything in the dungeon is weak except for Veldora. Milim whined. Rimuru nodded. I have a solution for that, too. This can act in a similar way to the elven homunculus. The elves were able to transfer their consciousness to the homunculus and still retain most of their power. Of course, I will do the reverse. I'll have it so our power is restricted when we possess these. Just when I was thinking about people sealing off their power to look cool, Rimuru does this. Well, I guess this is different. I am quite curious how well I'd fare in the dungeon, which has far less power available to me. I like to think I have a fair amount of technique in everything I utilize, swordsmanship, magic, and hand-to-hand combat. I primarily rely on hand-to-hand combat since it is what I enjoy the most. Why use a weapon when I can just use my hands? These hands are rated D for everyone, and they haven't had their chance to shine in a long time. Of course, that doesn't mean I am hesitant to use swordsmanship. I didn't train my ass off as well as copy others' techniques for nothing. I'll just reserve swordsmanship for the truly powerful, like a true anime character. Besides, most of my sword darts are incredibly powerful and not suitable for just messing around. The only person I regularly use my katana against is Milim, who herself is a very accomplished swordswoman and can handle it. Rimuru then took out a black orb and handed it to each of us. This feels familiar. Is this a piece of Charybdis core? I used something similar to reincarnate Gaia. Rimuru nodded. Yup. I isolated it in my stomach and extracted the negative energy, turning it into basically a shell. Just imagine your favorite monster while focusing your aura onto the black orb. Ooh. Anything I want? Asked Veldora. Rimuru nodded. Yeah, it should be able to turn into any kind of monster. But don't go overboard. Veldora smirked and then nodded. Milim, Veldora, Ramiris, and I all focused on the orb. What kind of monster do I want my avatar to be? I should base that around what abilities I want to use when incarnating my avatar. I think I'll go with Sukana's abilities. Dismantle, cleave, fire manipulation and all of Sukana's other abilities. Part of his technique should be good enough. I'll leave out his world system skill. I haven't had the chance to mess around with dismantle and cleave, two abilities I think are really fun to use, so I'll base my monster around those two abilities. Something agile and flexible. Perhaps I can create a brand new monster? Something with the combined traits of multiple different races? Well, it couldn't hurt to try. I focused on the image of what I wanted, and before long, my avatar was born. Huh? What's that, Felix? Rimuru asked. I noticed that he had created a ghost. I tried to see if I could create something with the traits from multiple different races, and it looks like I was successful. I said as I stared down at my avatar. You can do that? Rimuru yelled before coughing slightly and nodding. Ah, of course, I knew you could do that. I rolled my eyes. Huh. I took a look at what everyone else made. Veldora had created a skeleton of sorts, a skeleton warrior. Ramiris made a knight out of armor, basically a golem knight. And then, finally, Milim had created an imp. It's not just a normal imp but a bright pink imp, one with two wings, very subtle. Hee hee, what do you think, Felix? I thought of my favorite monster race, a demon. But then I realized that this couldn't turn into a demon, so I turned it into a demon offshoot. An imp. I clapped my hands. Very impressive. I then tilted my head. Though, since when has your favorite race been demon? Ah, well, of course, it's because you're a demon, Felix. Gah. Critical hit. Arc is 1, 2. Though what is yours? I don't think I have ever seen a monster like that before. Milim asked. Ah, I think I'll call it a shadow dancer. A creature that lives in the shadows itself, using them as cover to strike. I informed everyone while keeping a straight face. PFFT. You made such a Chuni avatar? Asked Rimuru, barely holding back his laughter. Hey. It's not Chuni. It's a very powerful and adaptable monster. I rebuked. Don't worry, Felix. I understand. Veldora shot me a thumbs up. I sighed. I don't know if that is good or bad, Veldora. Veldora looked confused. Good, of course. I don't know about that. I whispered. Alright, enough of that, let's focus now. Rimuru said. These avatars are what we are going to use to defeat challengers of the dungeon. Haha, you are right, Rimuru. These monsters are incredibly weak. They would be incapable of beating even the weak challengers of the dungeon. Veldora said. Ramaris nodded along. Yeah. What's the meaning of this, Rimuru? Yeah, they are pretty weak to start out, but they can grow by sucking up more magicules from the dungeon. But currently, they are pretty weak, so I got us some unique great equipment to choose from. They were right about one thing, these avatars were weak, not even at the level of a greater magician. We wouldn't be able to bring 1% of our power to bear with these as vessels. How fun. I already feel like I'm playing an MRG. Starting with a fresh character, I'll have to grind my way higher in strength and get better equipment. I can enjoy the weak to strong experience without actually losing my true strength. No matter what anyone tells you, being super overpowered can get boring. There is barely anyone to have a fun spar with. And I always have to hold back my true power. This way, I can technically go all out with my avatar without accidentally destroying everything around me, though the going all out thing is debatable since I would only be able to use whatever power the avatar can handle. Rimuru took out a bunch of armor and weapons from his stomach and laid them all out on the table. Alright, grab what you want. Rimuru said grandly. I quickly grabbed a dagger with a piercing enchantment, giving it a lot more penetrating power than normal, and then a black coat that concealed my presence. When using my avatar, I plan to go for an assassin build. All of these will help in that. I saw that Rimuru had picked a staff and a robe, and Veldora had picked a bastard sword, some armor, and a shield. Ramaris picked a giant axe and some armor, while Milim picked some gauntlets and a cape. Now that we all have our weapons, grab an emulated soul and aim it at your avatar. Rimuru explained. Then just release your magicules into the emulated soul to bind yourself to it, and then it will automatically merge with the master core. Finished Rimuru. We all nodded and set our equipment to the side. I grabbed an emulated soul, and moments later, I felt my vision change completely. Wow, this is trippy. I voiced out. I was shorter than I was previously, my vision was a bit different, and I could feel the difference in power in this avatar. It would take some getting used to. I turned around to look at my original body, which was just standing in place. I could choose to abandon this avatar and return to my main body at any point. Looking at myself from an outside point of view, I could say one thing for certain. I was damn handsome. Hee hee, this is so cool. Milim shouted as she jumped around in her avatar. Veldora, in his skeleton form, nodded. Indeed. I shall be the mightiest skeleton to grace this dungeon. Ooh. That sounds cool. Then I'll be the strongest golem. Ramaris shouted. Eh? Doesn't Beretta count as a golem? I asked. Ramaris stilled for a moment. Mahahaha, well, as my minion, of course, I'll be stronger than her. Of course, I will. Cope harder. Ramaris' gaze snapped to me. Eh? What does that mean? I shook my head. Nothing, it's nothing. Ah, this is a bracelet in which you guys can seal your avatars so you can deploy them whenever you want. Rimuru said as he handed each of us our respective bracelets. You can also store your main body in them too. He's right. I can sense the entrance to a miniature dimension located at the jewel of the bracelet. I quickly stored my main body in the bracelet and began to jump and move around to get used to this body further. While I couldn't make use of my ultimate skills or even the unique skills I had due to not having the power to use them, as well as the fact that those skills would make this entire thing pretty boring. That would be way too unfair, more unfair than it already is with the adventurers up against 4 demon lords and a true dragon. Anyways, now that we have our avatars ready and we have our equipment, let's go. Rimuru announced. Yeah. I laughed as I sent off another dismantle towards the panicking adventurer. Gah! He screamed as his arm was cut off. It was nice not to have to worry about injuring anybody too much since they would just be revived and fully healed. I saw a pink blur run past me and into another adventurer, killing the adventurer. Milim was seriously focusing on a speed build. It was pretty difficult for most adventurers to even see her coming. I watched as Ramaris bulldozed her way through the group of adventurers, knocking them on their backs, something I took advantage of as I sent 4 dismantles, one named for each of their heads, quickly decapitating them. I sighed. Man, that took a lot out of me. Not having my former levels of energy available to me is such a pain. This vessel could only handle so much energy inside of it, so only a fraction of my magicule capacity was accessible to me in this avatar. As I am now, I couldn't fight for very long if I wanted to use the abilities I had available to me to the fullest. Dismantle and cleave may be relatively simple, but they were powerful, and so the magicule cost to use them was fairly intense. Along with that, various other abilities from my main body were reflected in my avatar, such as thought acceleration, future attack prediction, ultra instinct. All of those were useful when I was in a far weaker body than before. We had been messing around in the dungeon for a couple of hours now, soaking up the magicules and strengthening our avatars while also being a nuisance to various adventurer groups. So far, only the 30th floor has been cleared. Various groups are still attempting to slay the Tempest Serpent, but I'm sure that will take some time. I smirked as I healed up from the injuries I acquired during this battle. Rimuru was able to use various elemental and holy magic as a ghost, so he basically just stuck to the support role while occasionally terrorizing others with elemental magic. It was pretty funny. He was using holy magic by praying to his original body. He was basically his own god. How egotistical. Good job, guys. Rimuru clapped. Ramaris puffed up her armor plate. Did you see what I did? Hee hee, those adventurers didn't know what was coming. Indeed, good job, Ramaris. Veldora said. I wish I was able to finish one of them off, but I am glad that we were successful. I flexed my arm a bit. I feel a good bit more powerful than when we started. It seems our avatars have gained some strength. I sensed Rimuru use Analyze and Assess on me and made no effort to block it. He then nodded. Yeah, all of us are at the A rank range now. Kahaha, as expected of us. We are already fearsome monsters in the dungeon. Veldora boasted. Well, only on the lower level floors. I corrected. Zijin would absolutely destroy us. No amount of teamwork can make up for such a large difference in raw power. I didn't know exactly how strong Zijin was, but according to Sukuna, Zijin was almost able to go toe-to-toe with him. So he was at least on Sukuna's own level, someone far beyond our avatars. Zijin is my student, so his strength is my strength. Veldora agreed. Yeah? In that case I am already the strongest golem since Beretta's strength also counts for me. Ramaris said with a smug tone. I sighed. I don't think that's how it works. Nonsense. Of course, that's how it works. Veldora fought back. I'm not going to argue about this. Good. Because you would lose that argument. Veldora said with a cocky smirk on his bony face. Is that so? Before I could continue, Rimuru interrupted. Stop messing with him, Veldora. He will actually argue with you for hours. Kahaha, that was funny though. Ramaris laughed. I squinted my eyes at her. You wanna go, Pixie? Ramaris may be taller than me and more bulky in our current forms, but I could run circles around her before she could do anything. Ramaris came up to me and began shadowboxing, which looked fairly odd, seeing as she was basically just sentient armor. Though unlike when she was in her pixie form, her current punches actually had some power behind them. The air in front of her fists was getting displaced, and with a bit more power, she may be able to cause a shockwave. She was a powerful metal golem now, after all. Huh? I'm not a pixie right now. I'm the unbeatable golem knight. She boasted. Hey, I bet your armor can't even withstand my cleave. I taunted. I was fairly certain I could cause Ramaris some damage with a well-placed cleave or a dismantle. It would only just cost me almost all the magicules I had available to me in this weak avatar. Ramaris was basically made out of unique grade armor. After all, unique grade equipment was considered an ancestral treasure for a reason. It was damn powerful. Foo-foo as if. Don't worry, I'll go easy on you because you're my friend. Ramaris said. Before we could continue, Rimuru got in between us. If you guys want to fight, do it later. It was pretty funny seeing a ghost get in between me and a massive golem knight. Ramaris crossed her arms. Humphrey. Well, I don't want to fight anymore. I rolled my eyes. Rimuru paused for a moment before groaning. Well, it seems I have something to handle, so I'm going to go. You guys can set your avatars to free roam, basically making it so that they will follow a set series of actions, in this case being monsters of the dungeon. Rimuru took out his slime body from his bracelet. I watched as his spirit exited his avatar and went back into his main body. He hopped around for a few seconds. That feels a lot better. He sighed. Anyways, see ya. And with that, he teleported out. Rimuru's avatar looked at us for a moment before scuttling off. I shook my head. I'll be leaving too, I said as I swapped bodies. That feels a lot better, I said as I clenched my fists. Going from my current level of power to the level of power my avatar had available was definitely an experience. Wait for me, Felix. Milim yelled as she stopped possessing her avatar and returned to her main body. Did you want me to teleport you back? Milim should be capable of teleportation, but for some reason, she disliked doing it. Yup. I don't want Frey to get more angry at me, Milim said nervously. It's kinda funny how well Frey has Milim tamed. I snapped my fingers, creating a portal to Milim's office in front of her. Looking through the portal, I could see Frey standing on the other side with her hands crossed. Frey. Milim stuttered. Frey sighed and gestured for Milim to come through the portal. Milim sighed and waved us goodbye as she walked to her execution platform. You won't be forgotten, Milim. Milim just slouched further, hearing me. Once she was through, I closed the portal behind her, dooming her eternally. I saw Amaris holding her hands together. Oh, fallen Lord Veldneva, please have mercy on her. Amen. I looked at her weirdly. Where did you learn that, Amaris? From one of the manga I borrowed from Veldora. She responded. What? Which manga did you borrow? You never asked me? Veldora demanded. Oops. And with a reaction time, I could only dream of Ramaris immediately abandoning her avatar and returning to her main body. She quickly began to fly away. Get back here, Ramaris. Which one of the sacred texts did you take? Veldora yelled as he chased after her. Things never get told here, huh? I shook my head and snapped my fingers, returning back to Azeroth. Grand Barosso, he clenched his fists under the table as he processed what the homunculus had said. You said that Mariabelle was killed by either the slime or the demon? He asked. His voice was calm, too calm. He had long since known of Mariabelle's death. She was the trump card of the Rosso, and his granddaughter, of course, knew. Anything she did, he knew, even the things she tried to keep hidden from him. Grand assumed that her death had something to do with her attack on Tempest. The timing was too coincidental to be otherwise. From what his resources have said, the attack did minimal damage, and Tempest's rapid expansion has not been halted whatsoever. In fact, Mariabelle had even had an invitation to the Western Council sent out, something he made no moves to block as he was not aware of her situation at that time. Now it was too late, all of his plans he had carefully weaved. All of them were thrown out the window. Mariabelle was dead, so he no longer cared about the council. All of his original plans were based on Mariabelle. Without her and her skill their plan would not work. Her death had put a massive dent in his plan, but even more painful was the dent it had left in his heart. He had not thought he would get attached to someone after Maria, but Mariabelle had proved him wrong. Her death had woken him up from his power-hungry haze, from his controlling ways. He knew he had betrayed his teacher originally. The plan was for him to gain control over the Western nations and then hand the West over to his teacher, Emperor Ryudranam Naska. But somewhere along the line, his plans changed. Somewhere along the way, he began thinking he would be more suitable as the ruler of the world. Somewhere along the way, he was corrupted by all the power. He looked around the room. Kagli had made quite a lot of effort to get into contact with him. He was quite suspicious, but he decided to hear her out, at least for Mariabelle's sake. His gaze wandered to Damrata, someone he had known from his time in the Eastern Empire. His camaraderie with Damrata had long since faded. Now, they were just bitter rivals. He truly wondered where everything began to go wrong. Indeed, Princess Mariabelle and Guildmaster Yuki had come up with a plan to weaken the Jura Tempest Federation's rapid expansion. Kagli informed. He nodded. Yes, I am aware of this, continue. Kagli nodded. They had even planned to use the Chaos Dragon that we had located. Mariabelle managed to control it somehow and used it to attack Tempest. Grandel rolled his eyes. He was aware of the finer details of the plan, no matter how much Mariabelle wished to keep it secret. One could not make use of the shadow force of the Rosso without his approval. Mariabelle had planned to use the Chaos Dragon as a distraction and take control of Demon Lord Felix. Of course, something clearly went wrong in this plan of hers, something drastic that had resulted in her very death. Originally, he had assumed that Demon Lord Felix had not completed his awakening, and so he was not much of a threat. Now, however, he was beginning to doubt that assumption. In the past, before he had left his teacher's care, he would have been far more cautious when dealing with Demon Lord Felix, he likely would have assumed the Demon Lord had awakened and had a vast amount of power available to him. It was always best to assume the worst when making plans to counteract an enemy. His teacher used to say something, plan for the worst so that should things go horribly wrong, you are still prepared. He had grown arrogant with his domination of the Western Council. He had forgotten the reality of this world, the reality that when compared to his teacher, or his teacher's rival, Guy Crimson, he was nothing. His granddaughter paid the price. The Rosso paid the price. He knew Mariabelle's plan did not have a very high chance of success, and so he wished to teach Mariabelle a lesson. That even with all their political influence, they can still fail, but it seems like he needed that lesson as well, only he was learning it far too late. There is a reason he had been intricately navigating the Western nations for centuries rather than just taking over with sheer power. Lady Luminous would not allow such a thing. Their cooperation began due to their shared goals. Now, however, the Demon Lords have grown to be a threat. Lady Luminous, no Luminous, had betrayed their goals when she decided to ally with Tempest, and that is when she became an enemy. It seems somewhere along the way, Princess Mariabelle and Guildmaster Ecchi were caught. I am not sure how they killed both of them away from prying eyes, but they managed to do so and pin the blame on others. Cagley informed. Granville rolled his eyes. Do not think you and Ecchi hid your activities from me. I know you have been using our resources through Mariabelle to summon and sell otherworlder children. I am aware that the clowns that have been accused of killing Mariabelle and Ecchi are your underlings, he said as he eyed Cagley. Cagley seemed to be looking at him in a renewed light. I see, I apologize for underestimating you then. But in the end, that changes nothing. We had nothing to do with Ecchi's or Mariabelle's death. It would be foolish to kill Mariabelle as that would get your attention, something we are better off not having. He had long since suspected that Ecchi had a way to get around Mariabelle's control. While he was not certain, he still believed that Ecchi was not completely under Mariabelle's control, and yet he still seemingly died with her. He did suspect Ecchi to be partially responsible for Mariabelle's death, but there was nothing he could do to confirm that. His attention was better used focused on other things, like the fact that something was going on in the background, something he was not aware of. If his plan is to be successful, then he needs as much information as possible. His plan was a very risky one and one that would make Luminous an unapproachable enemy. She would want his head for it, completely ignoring their past relationship. Luminous had a certain hero hidden inside Night Garden, located deep within her palace, and no matter how much Luminous tried to hide her, he found out. He still remembered witnessing that hero in action for the first time during a Tenma war. She had saved his life. She was like an unbeatable Valkyrie, easily cutting down hordes of angels without much effort. To him, she seemed to be the peak of power. And Luminous had her. He did not know the relationship the two possessed, but in the end, a Demon Lord had possession of a hero. That was a threat to all of humanity. The Demon Lords were at a point where they were the most powerful they have ever been. The general public only believed there to be two awakened Demon Lords, the Lord of Darkness, Guy Crimson, and the Destroyer, Milim Nava. However, he knew that there were more. There was the Queen of Nightmares, Luminous Valentine, the Sleeping Ruler, Dino, and now likely Rimuru Tempest after his massacre of the Famuth army and possibly Felix White. He knew he stood no chance against the Destroyer and the Lord of Darkness. His teacher had warned him enough about those two. They were clearly off limits to him. And for once, he would heed his teacher's advice. In ancient history, it was known that his teacher and Guy Crimson were rivals, and even now, as experienced as he is, his teacher still seemed to be an insurmountable mountain. He could feel it in his bones. The gap between him and his teacher was as large as the gap between heaven and earth. But he was done underestimating those two Demon Lords. Felix White and Rimuru Tempest had clearly proven themselves to be threats to humanity. That's what his instincts as a former hero were telling him. Mariabelle's death had lit a fire under him. He knew he was not capable enough to lead humanity to a new light, and so he would entrust that duty to one of humanity's heroes, the one who is strong enough to seal away the Storm Dragon. The hero Granoa. He would free her from Luminous's clutches. That was the first step in his plan. He carefully eyed Damrata and Cagley. They could prove useful in his plan, if only as bait. He knew it would be harder to manipulate Damrata. The man was incredibly old, and no matter how much Granville hated to admit it, his old rival was at the very least an equal of his. The man was hailed as a fist saint and a bitter rival of an Archduke of Hell. He had skill, knowledge, and power to back up his status as a fist saint. Granville would not underestimate him. Granville did not know why Damrata had left the service of his teacher, and their relationship was far too strained for him to inquire as to why. He did not think Damrata betrayed his teacher. The man was incredibly loyal to Emperor Ryuta and would gladly die for him. Damrata had been navigating in the Western nations for centuries, so he was likely ordered to do so by the Emperor himself for some reason. Grandel had no idea why his teacher would let go of someone so powerful, and someone with so much wisdom. Damrata did not become the Prime Minister of the Nazca Kingdom through being an idiot. No, he was incredibly intelligent and powerful, as befitting of the leader of the single digits, number 01. He had heard that Damrata was replaced as the leader of the single digits some time back, which only increased the threat of the Eastern Empire in Grandel's mind. Cagli, however, was a different case entirely. No matter how much Cagli tried to hide it, she was angry, she was furious at Yoki's death. He could use that. Seeing as we have established that I already know of all your hidden activities, what is it you called this meeting for? He asked. Cagli looked at Damrata, who nodded. We are proposing an alliance to take down Demon Lord Felix and Demon Lord Rimuru. He raised his brow in curiosity. And how do you propose we manage that? Cagli nodded as if she was expecting that question. We have a significant force under us, and while it will take quite a lot of planning, not to mention the masked Magan that is protecting the West from the demons of Guy Crimson. With our combined forces, as long as we play it smart, we can take one of the two demon lords' values hostage, and from there make our demands. Grandel nodded. It was simple yet efficient plan, all things considered. However, the plan was reliant on two things: finding someone one of those two demon lords care for, and learning if they would be willing to truly compromise should said person be taken hostage. The slime, Rimuru, was one thing. Mariabelle had gathered enough information to know that he was emotionally weak, but he was often surrounded by the people he cared for. Taking them from under his nose would just be foolish. But a demon like Felix would be too unpredictable and likely too heartless to care. It would be cataclysmic if, rather than give in to their demands, the demon lord just rampaged across the western nations. And knowing their relationship, if one snapped, the other would probably follow. Seeing as Hinata was for some reason disabled, he could not count on her to handle one of the demon lords, if she was even capable of such a thing. Not to mention all the trust he had with Hinata had likely dried up long ago. Razal was extremely powerful. Even he would be wary of Razal in his prime. He had full faith that his friend was capable of taking on an awakened demon lord. However, what he feared was the demons of Guy Crimson taking advantage of the situation to invade the western nations, so he was hesitant to have Razal deployed elsewhere. He would only do that in a last-ditch effort, an all-or-nothing plan, which is what the plan he had come up with was looking to be. No, the more he thought about it, Cagli's plan was far too risky. He expected better from Yoki's second-in-command. Yoki, from what he had noticed, was an incredibly bright young man with a vast amount of potential. He could see why a man like Damrata was backing him. It was quite unfortunate that he had met his demise along with Mariabelle. Perhaps in better circumstances they could have cooperated. I am not willing to take part in your plan. While my heart desires revenge for Mariabelle's demise, I am not blinded enough to see the sheer amount of risks present in your plan. I expected better from you. TCH. Fine then. If you agree to cooperation in general, then do you have a plan that can work? Cagli questioned. Grandel tilted his head and then nodded. I do in fact have the basics of a plan down. With Mariabelle dead, the Rosso have no hope. In that case I might as well use her treasure for vengeance. Her treasure? Cagli asked. Indeed, the most precious treasure of the god Luminous, and the demon Lord Valentine. He responded. He noticed neither Cagli or Damrata seemed to be surprised by the revelation of who the true deity of Luminism is. Ah, so it seems you are already aware of that secret then. He concluded. Cagli nodded. Yes, Yoki had hypothesized such a thing, and after being framed by the Western Holy Church, that is the only answer. Demon Lord Valentine, Demon Lord Felix, and Demon Lord Rimuru have entered an alliance, and with all their combined resources they were able to easily frame us for the act of killing Yoki and Mariabelle. Grandel nodded. Indeed, that is the likely scenario. I can think of various reasons as to why they would do such a thing. Grandel said, I'm Cagli. But such a thing has no point. What matters is that it happened, and now we must deal with the issue. Cagli nodded. Well said. Grandel rolled his eyes at Cagli's flattery. She was likely trying to steer the conversation away from Yoki's and her own involvement in Mariabelle's death. Cagli would not be getting away from her just punishment, he would simply make use of her and then discard her. After the hero is freed, he would entrust humanity and the safety of the Western nations to her. He did not know if or how Luminous had her under control, but he would free her, no matter what. Luminous's secret treasure is the ultimate weapon, a being that was used to seal the storm dragon Veldora. Hearing him, both Damrata and Cagli's eyes widened. Luminous had Granoa? Damrata yelled. He sighed as he relaxed back in his seat. I see, it seems I've become blind in my old age. Damrata laughed out. Cagli nodded with a growing smile on her face. How did she gain possession of the hero? Grandel shrugged his shoulders. Who knows? What I do know is that currently the hero is sealed in the Holy Ark, located in the most secure place in Rugirius. Getting to the seal is nigh impossible, let alone unsealing the hero. What Grandel said was not a lie. He had no idea how he would go about unsealing the hero. He simply wished to gain control of the seal itself first, he could then work on unsealing it over time. The hero was likely sealed for a reason, she was likely restricted by something, whether it was her natural lifespan or something else he did not know. I will lead an attack on the Grand Cathedral alongside some of your forces as well as my own. This should be a suitable enough distraction for you to sneak into Night Garden and steal the seal Granoa has been left in. Cagley nodded. Very well. It will be done. Afterwards we shall use the hero to get revenge on the two demon lords. If Demon Lord Valentine can control the hero, then we can as well. Grandel sighed inwardly at Cagley's foolishness. Even Damrata seemed to be disappointed, he likely had his own reasons for assisting her. It seems we have a deal then, Grand Elderoso. Cagley smiled. He nodded. Indeed, to a fruitful cooperation, he said as he raised his glass. Chapter 127, Amrita. He relaxed back in his chair as Cagley and Damrata left. He met Damrata's eyes for a moment before Damrata turned away and left. He sighed as he thought back to his old friend. Time truly was a powerful force and unforgiving to turn two close friends into bitter rivals. Part of Grandel wished he could return to the good old days, with him and Damrata by his teacher's side, laughing and making jokes. But time waited for no one. Now, things had changed. He needed to eliminate Demon Lord Rimuru, Demon Lord Felix, and even Demon Lord Luminous, who had proven herself to be a threat to his goals. He had spent over 1,000 years dedicated to humanity to make sure humanity thrived in this challenging world. While his goal had seemingly changed into wanting to rule and dominate humanity, he still wished for humanity to thrive, and that had never changed. If Demon Lord Rimuru has his way, then humanity will be incapable of thriving on its own. They will always be under the whims of a Demon Lord, and anyone who wants to help Demon Lord Rimuru in his goals will be his enemy. His resolve was unquestionable. He had faced many setbacks over the years, lost trusted friends, and faced betrayal, but he was unyielding. After planning with Mariabelle, he knew his plans were one step away from coming to fruition, he would have finally been successful. But then everything fell apart, and now he was practically hopeless, all his dreams riding on a single course of action that many could call suicidal. If Mariabelle had been born even a decade earlier, then everything would have been different. The Western nations would be under his rule, and humanity would be at true peace and prosperity. But no, the world was just that cruel. And now, the 9 sovereigns, that group of demon lords, had practical domination over the Western nations. Almost all the land on the main continent that did not belong to the Eastern Empire belonged to the demon lords. The barren lands, though that area is not habitable for normal humans, there is the Holy Empire Ruberius, the Great Jura Forest, Azeroth, the Beast Kingdom Urazania, the Harpy Kingdom Fulbrosa, and the City of the Forgotten Dragon. Humanity was cattle, restricted to a small portion of the world. Even the land humanity had claimed wasn't even fully used. Even Sorcerer's Dynasty Sarian, and the armed nation Dwargon could not strictly be considered part of humanity. Not to mention, kingdoms were small, the vast majority of a kingdom's territory was filled with mountains and forests, large-scale terraforming was a very difficult thing to do, and so cities, towns, and the like were only built on somewhat even ground. Kingdoms claimed the territory around them because if they did not, then another kingdom would. However, that did not change the fact that humans were very restricted when it came to creating toes. Things were incredibly dire, and he knew he needed to do something. Even though the 10 great demon lords were no more and their numbers were reduced, they had still grown stronger than ever before. The demons in the north, let loose by the Lord of Darkness, Guy Crimson, rampaged all around as if this entire world was their playground. The continent's Wrath Dagrul and Queen of Nightmares, Luminous Valentine, were always at each other's throats. Against all these threats, humanity was practically hopeless. He was getting old. Eventually, he would pass on, and humanity would have no one to take the reins, and when that happens, humanity would show its true nature. They would slaughter each other for personal gain, ignoring the threats right at their borders. He refused to allow all his hardship to be for nothing. No, he would either free Kranoa and give humanity its hope, or he would die trying. That was his promise as a former hero. Damrata, thank you for your assistance in gaining Granble's cooperation, Damrata. He sighed as he turned to Yuki's second-in-command. They had just finished fine-tuning the plan with Granble and had just returned to their current primary base. It is no problem, Cagley. It is the least I could do for Yuki. Hearing Yuki's name, Cagley grit her teeth. Indeed. He was disappointed in Cagley's short-sightedness, her rage blinded her to the fact that Granble was using them for his own ends. Or perhaps Cagley was deliberately ignoring such a fact and hoped to make use of Granble in return, but he could not say so. To think that Luminous had that hero in her possession. Now he understood why Yuki had him sacrifice his relationship with Hinata, all for the chance of gaining possession of the coffin Grinoa was sealed in. Any sacrifice would be worth it to gain someone of her power on their side. He was quite upset and even sad at Yuki's death. Yuki had incredible charisma and desire. He truly believed that Yuki would be the one to finally end Emperor Ryudra's suffering. He had even sworn loyalty to the young man, something he had done to only one other. But he was wrong, and now he would have to continue to look for someone who was capable of neutralizing his best friend's suffering. He had a promise to fulfill. He still remembered that day very clearly. "Hey, Damrata, can I ask you for a favor?" Ryudra asked with his usual smile, though it seemed more distant than before. "Sure. Just don't involve me in your marital issues. Lady Velgrand is scary. I don't want her to come to me looking for answers." He had joked, trying to bring his friend out of his thoughts. Ryudra laughed at hearing that. "No, it's nothing like that, my friend. No, it's something else." Damrata could tell that things were getting serious, and so he sat up in his seat. "Then what do you need?" "Well, the thing is, you know I've been reincarnating, right? Due to the strain my skill puts on my soul." Damrata nodded. "Well, it turns out that according to Guy, my soul wears down, little by little, even with my reincarnations. There will come a point where I won't be me anymore." Ryudra explained, his eyes regaining their focus as he spoke. Damrata's eyes widened upon hearing his friend. "What?" Ryudra still had his normal happy smile on his face, as if none of this was his issue. "Yeah, so I'm going to need you to do me a favor." "What is it?" "I am willing to do anything to help you." "Haha, you're always like this, huh?" Ryudra chuckled. "Well, I think that's my strong suit." Ryudra nodded. "Yeah, even Velgrand says she respects you for that, though please don't tell her I said that. She'll skin me alive." He rolled his eyes at the Emperor's antics. "Anyways, it seems every time I'm reborn, I lose a piece of myself. So in the case that I lose myself completely, I order you this Damrata, kill me or find someone else capable of killing me." His eyes widened at hearing his Emperor's unreasonable order. "Ryudra." Ryudra laughed sheepishly. "I can't ask Velgrand such a thing, you know?" He didn't want to promise his best friend such a thing, but seeing the look in his eyes, he had no choice. He sighed. "Very well, I will make sure you are taken care of should you lose yourself." Hearing him, Ryudra smiled. "Great. I knew I could count on you." Ever since that day, he has felt a burden in his heart. Time passed, and eventually, he spoke with Ryudra about the same thing again. "I think I'm going to reach my limit soon, Damrata. Controlling Michael, Lord of Justice, is just too much. Perhaps my ideals were wrong from the start? What is absolute justice? Is it not as evil as tyranny and injustice?" Ryudra sighed. He clenched his fists, hearing his friend. He had never sounded so broken before. "That promise from some time ago, will you keep it?" Ryudra asked. He nodded, no matter how much it pained him to do so. Ryudra sighed in relief hearing him. Good. Good, I can't leave it to you then. I am sorry for asking you such a thing, my friend, but while I am still in control of myself, I must make sure the appropriate countermeasures are taken. I do not know what will happen after I truly lose myself. I wish to prepare for the worst." Ryudra looked to the sky. "It seems the skill entrusted to me by my friend was too much for me. No matter how this game with Guy and I goes, I know I will not be able to continue to use Michael. Hey, I wonder how far I would have gone if I had kept her ill." That day, the burden in his heart grew manifold, and he had been suffering ever since, trying to find someone capable of defeating his emperor should the worst happen. He had even left the Eastern Empire and wandered the Western nations as a merchant in order to pursue this goal. It had been centuries since he had left his home. And while he was still technically part of the active military as the number 002 of the single digits, with command over all of the digits below him in ranking, he was nowhere near as active back in the Eastern Empire as he used to be. The excuse that was given to the higher-ups of the military in the Eastern Empire was that he was in the West selling weapons and causing chaos, prepping everything for when the Eastern Empire would invade the Western nations. While that was true, his primary goal was still to keep his promise to Ryudra. Ryudra was a great man, a man who wished for peace, a man who would unite the world in everlasting peace. He wanted humans to understand each other and cooperate with each other for the good of mankind. He wished to create a better world with the help of everyone, and even became a hero for humanity to one day see the world he envisioned. Even the mighty Star King Veldonara saw the allure of such a dream. He was infuriated that Yuki's arrogance had gotten him killed. Yuki's foolishness had made Emperor Ryudra's fate more uncertain than it was before, and just when he finally found a hope, Yuki's anti-skill was the solution to his problem. He believed that with it, Yuki would be able to defeat Emperor Ryuta should the worst happen. An ability that was capable of suppressing skills, even ultimate skills, was just the kind of unpredictable ability that would allow Yuki to take out Emperor Ryuta. But it seems his vision would always remain a dream. If only Yuki had used the artifact that he had given to him. Long ago, in ancient times, he had gotten the Scorched Dragon Vilgrind to imbue an artifact with her vast amount of power. She was a master of spatial manipulation, capable of connecting 2 points in space from a vast distance. It was child's play for her to imbue an artifact with the power to teleport anywhere within a reasonable distance, even ignoring barriers and space locks. He had asked Kagli why Yuki had not used it. To say he was angry was an understatement when he heard that Yuki had given the artifact to Laplace due to his own arrogance. He truly believed he was unbeatable. A misunderstanding he paid for with his life, a foolish misunderstanding at that. As the man he pledged his loyalty to, he should have done better to explain the true ins and outs of their world, but his hands were tied, his loyalty to Emperor Ryuta conflicting with his loyalty to Yuki, and in the end, his loyalty to Emperor Ryuta would always win out. He sighed. At the very least, Yuki seemed to have had Hinata Sakaguchi properly dealt with. Laplace had ambushed her, and Ruberius had recently announced that Hinata Sakaguchi would be taking a leave of absence. That could either mean she was injured and needed time to recover or that she was dead. Damrata was betting on the latter. Laplace was a powerful man. In the Eastern Empire, he would have easily been a part of the single digits. He looked to Kagli, who was walking deeper into the compound. He only decided to help Kagli one last time by arranging her meeting with Granbl, but the things talked about in the meeting gained his interest. Since Yuki was no longer able to assist him in fulfilling his promise, he needed to find someone else powerful and with potential. Enough potential to be capable of eventually at least matching Emperor Ryudra. There were some individuals he had considered, including the two newest demon lords, Rimuru Tempest and Felix White, but in the end, he did not know enough about those two, nor did he think it would be a wise decision to meet them in person. The masked hero Granoa did fit the bill. Even with his resources from the Eastern Empire, he was unable to learn of her origins when she first showed up. Though eventually he had seen her in action, during one of Emperor Ryudra's regular Tenma wars, he had watched her massacre Angel after Angel. She radiated an incredible amount of power, which seemed as endless as that of Emperor Ryudra's. Perhaps she wasn't as strong as Emperor Ryudra, perhaps both Emperor Ryudra and Granoa were so far beyond him that they both seemed almost infinite to his perception, but one did not seal the storm dragon by being a slouch. No, only true monsters were capable of such a thing. Even he, with all his experience and power, would struggle to even survive against the storm dragon, let alone seal him. Velgrind had made it very clear how powerful the true dragons truly were. When in her presence, Damrata felt like an ant in front of a tiger. The true dragons were the unbeatable monsters of this world, no being could stand up against them. Only exceptions, such as Demon Lord Guy Crimson, Emperor Ryudra, and Princess Milim, were capable of matching them, and those three were truly the insane ones. Even a truly awakened being could not hope to understand the sheer power those beings possessed. Even Damrata, who was a saint, couldn't begin to understand the mindset and willpower of beings at that level. It was not normal for there to be beings that were capable of matching the might of the supreme true dragons, and yet there were. And if Granoa was capable of sealing Veldora, then perhaps she would be capable of defeating Emperor Ryudra? If, at the very least, she could seal him, then he would get even more time to search for someone who could defeat him. While Veldora was beaten by his sisters many times in the past, he was still a powerful figure that almost none could hope to defeat. He would need to meet Granoa to find out if she was capable of assisting him with his goal, but it was as good a lead as any. That was his reason for his continued cooperation with Kagli at this point. If Kagli did manage to extract Granoa, then he could make contact with her and begin to understand her. If Kagli failed, then no harm done. He would cut her loose and figure out how to gain Granoa's cooperation on his own. Just like Granbl, he would use Kagli to accomplish his goals, no matter what his previous relationship with her was. One did not become a saint without having willpower, and he was willing to do anything to fulfill his promise to Emperor Ryudra. Come, let us hold a meeting and inform the others of the plan, Kagli said. He nodded and followed her to the meeting room in their secret base. He took his seat and looked around the room. There was Kagli, Tyr, Misha, and Viga. Of course there were others lower in the chain of command, but Kagli felt it wise to keep the amount of people in the know small, something Damrata agreed with. Kagli folded her hands on the table. I have just returned from a meeting with Granbl Rosso, Kagli announced. Viga looked disinterested. The only thing that would interest that beast was fighting and suppressing those weaker than him. Viga was a pathetic and warped creature. However, he had potential, something Yuki only increased with his experiments on Viga. What happened in the meeting, President? Tyr asked excitedly. Kagli sighed. Calm down, Tyr, I will explain everything. Is it about the boss? Misha asked as she sanded down her nails. Kagli nodded. It does relate to Ecchi. As you all know, he has passed away, and I refuse to allow those responsible to be let go scot-free. Misha nodded. The boss helped me when I was at my worst. At the very least, I'll try and help avenge him since he's gone. Misha replied. Ha ha ha, who knew a man as powerful as the boss would kick the bucket? Viga laughed out. Kagli glared at Viga. If you have nothing else to add, then keep quiet. Viga mockingly saluted Kagli. You got it, boss lady. Damrod sighed, seeing what was happening in front of him. Viga was a man who only seemed to respect the powerful. Without Ecchi or Laplace to keep him in check, he was a loose cannon, a powerful loose cannon, but a loose cannon nonetheless. Viga was testing what he could get away with now that the true powerhouses of their group were gone. He would consider what to do with Viga. One answer was neutralizing him, but that would possibly announce his own true strength to his colleagues. They would then question why they hadn't been informed of his power beforehand. Saints are fearsome figures in their own right. That line of questioning would be bothersome at this point in time. It was best if he laid low until he made contact with Cronoa. He considered ambushing Viga in secret, but their forces were already very low. They now lacked high-level fighters. Before they had Footman and Laplace amongst them, both were powerful, Laplace especially. Now it was down to just Tyr as their main fighting force, as well as Viga. Both, while powerful, would not be a match for an awakened being. Still, for Kagli's and Granville's insane plans to work, they would need all the high-level fighters they could get. Eliminating Viga would be a waste. For all his faults, he was a useful grunt. So what's your plan to avenge the boss, huh? Viga asked. All of a sudden, an aura pressed down on Viga. Did you not hear the president? Keep quiet and just listen. While Viga was strong, he was not yet capable of resisting Tyr. Gah. Fine, fine. He grunted. He noticed Tyr Kagli, who nodded slightly. It seems they had planned to kick Viga down a peg or two. To make a show of power to get him to submit. Kagli likely had the same concerns as him. With Ecchi and Laplace gone, Viga may attempt to rebel against them, reminding him that Tyr was still clearly above him in the power hierarchy should be enough to get him to cooperate. If there was one thing that could make Viga follow orders, it was strength. The man craved strength and venerated it in equal measure. As long as someone was more powerful than him, he would follow them like a lost puppy. It's what made Viga so easy and difficult to control at the same time. He was a simple man, but he was by no means loyal. Damrada wouldn't be surprised if Viga jumped ships the moment someone more powerful than Tyr appeared. Thank you, Tyr. Now, Granville and I have formed a temporary alliance of sorts. As you all now know, the goddess of the Western Holy Church is the demon Lord Valentine. Granville was once one of her most elite subordinates, the leader of the 7 luminaries, who were said to train heroes. Thanks to his position in the Western Holy Church, he was able to find out that demon Lord Valentine has possession of the sealed hero, Cronoa. Kagli said. You mean that hero that was active all over the Western nations? Misha asked. Kagli nodded. The very same. With that information, we came up with a plan to gain ownership over the sealed Cronoa. Granville will serve as the distraction while we sneak into Demon Lord Valentine's palace, which is hidden in the underground city of Night Garden, the home of the vampires. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty difficult to me. How will we even enter Night Garden, not to mention find the palace of Demon Lord Luminous? Misha asked. Misha, while arrogant in her abilities, was fairly cautious. She did grow up on the streets, after all. One does not survive the black market of the Eastern Empire by being a fool. Granville informed us of one of the hidden passageways he had created that leads into Demon Lord Valentine's inner sanctum. Kagli responded. Misha nodded in understanding. Granville hypothesized that Demon Lord Valentine was somehow controlling Cronoa. If we can manage to do the same, then Cronoa can be our weapon against Demon Lord Rimuru and Demon Lord Felix. She managed to seal the Storm Dragon, a true dragon. With Cronoa on our side, it will be easy for us to negotiate for Laplace back at a minimum. Ideally, we can use Cronoa to get rid of those 2 demon lords, once and for all. Kagli finished with a predatory grin on her face. So the plan is to basically invade a demon lord's most private place, gain possession of the hero, and then leave? Misha questioned. Kagli nodded. Indeed, we do still have some time to prepare. In order to aid Granville with his distraction, we will have some of your tamed monsters assist him, as well as some of Ecchi's failed experiments. Misha nodded in understanding. The majority of the monsters and magic beasts Misha managed to charm were fairly insignificant. On average, they were on the lower end of the A rank, with the strongest among them barely reaching the special A rank. Strong for the majority of humanity, but fodder for the exceptional. Damrata assumed that her tamed beasts would be useful for dealing with the Western Holy Church's combatants. The Temple Knights and Crusaders would have a tough time with them. There were tens of thousands of Temple Knights stationed in Ruberius, though the majority of them couldn't hope to even reach A rank. Misha's beasts would be sufficient to kill them and keep the stronger ones occupied. Then, there were many experiments that Ecchi had sponsored. Some were similar to the Magic Inquisitor program of Ingrasha. By incorporating a monster factor in a human, they can grow in strength drastically. However, Ecchi took it a step further by having lesser and greater demons summoned and then incarnating them into the Magic Inquisitors. It was a fusion of beings with a strong spirit and a strong body of Magic Inquisitors, leading to beings that were easily in the Special A range. They were by no means a failed experiment. It was just that not many could handle the process of becoming a Magic Inquisitor. Having a monster factor forcefully imbued into your being was an incredibly painful process, let alone the process of incarnating a demon. Thanks to that, they only had 6 successful improved Magic Inquisitors, as Ecchi called them. Each of them had basically been programmed to obey Ecchi and Cagle, so betrayal was not possible for them. Damrata eyed Vega and sighed. If only Ecchi had the foresight to do something similar to Vega. Do any of you have any questions? Cagle asked. Will Damrata be joining us in the attack? Vega questioned. Cagle looked at him oddly and shook her head. No, while he does have vast connections and has helped us quite a lot, he has no combat power. Vega nodded with an off-putting smile on his face. No combat power? I see. The way Vega said that made Damrata somewhat suspicious. Was Vega able to see through his disguise? Was he able to tell that he was suppressing his strength and presence to the absolute limit? With all the experiments done on Vega, he may have gained and honed some combat instincts of his own? Instincts that may have been reacting around him, confusing Vega. If that is all, then this meeting is finished. I will inform you all of when exactly we will enact our plan later. Cagle announced. He left the meeting room and began to make plans of his own. Perhaps he should discreetly follow behind Cagle when she conducts this operation? He had managed to replicate a fraction of the power Emperor Ryudra gave Jiwoo, who is number 009 of the single digits. Each of the single digits is rewarded with god-grade equipment as well as alternative, and ultimate class ability. The single digits were Emperor Ryudra's personal guard and attack force. They needed to be strong and well-equipped to fulfill such a duty. Emperor Ryudra, of course, had no need for guards, but if a ruler had to make a move himself, it would shame them and their territory. Each member has a different ability, like superiority over magic and unique skills, enemy identification. He had Soul Protect, which granted him protection against any kind of spiritual attack with an impenetrable psychological barrier. Complete concealment of own powers is the ultimate power Emperor Ryudra bestowed upon Jiwoo, which, through time and effort, he managed to somewhat replicate, allowing him to hide his presence. Though Damrata did not believe it would work on Ultimate Awakened, even Vega was able to see through his disguise slightly, though that was likely only Vega's instincts warning him of the threat he was. It should still be more than enough to follow Cagle, and if she fails, then he could take advantage of the opportunity to secure Krinoa himself or retreat if he felt it too risky. There was no real downside to tailing Cagle. He knew he was getting desperate. Normally, he would almost never take action himself, but he could feel that his time was running out. He needed Krinoa in order to have insurance against Emperor Ryudra should the worst happen. Vega, he stared at Damrata's back as he left. He could feel the craving to consume Damrata, to eat his entire being and take his power for his own. His unique skill, Scavenger, which he acquired after his time on the streets of Ingrasha, allowed him to gain the strength and properties of any prey he consumed. He could even consume equipment and absorb their power and properties. However, his instincts were warning him that it was a bad idea, that he would die if he tried to absorb Damrata. Damrata was not the merchant he played as. He was strong, so Vega left Damrata to do his business, and he had no right to question him. The strong could do whatever they wished. Tyr was also out of his range. He would be incapable of taking Tyr down on his own, so while he wanted to consume her, he held off. He smirked as he walked out of the meeting room. He now knew exactly what he had to do. With Laplace and the boss gone, there was no reason for him to stay in Cerberus. Ecchi was the one who staged his death back in Ingrasha and experimented on him, but he did not hate the man for it. After all, everything led back to his core ideology, which was that the strong could do whatever they wished to the weak. He was the weaker party, and so he was at Ecchi's mercy, as was right. The boss was apparently killed by one of those 2 demon lords, or at least his death was related to them, Rimuru or Felix. Even Laplace hadn't been heard from ever since he entered Tempest. Laplace was someone he was unable to see through. He was so powerful that Vega couldn't see through him at all. And the boss had beaten Laplace. There was a reason he had completely submitted to Ecchi. After all, he was powerful. And if Ecchi was somehow beaten by those 2 demon lords, Then that means those two demon lords are probably strong, right? He would see what Demon Lord Felix was made of. If he was strong, he would beg to join his service as one of his subordinates. According to Cagley, Azeroth, Demon Lord Felix's territory, and the Holy Empire Ruberius were allied. If he had to, he would use the information he gained from this meeting to win Demon Lord Felix over and serve under him. He guessed that if Demon Lord Felix was allied with Demon Lord Valentine, then this information would be useful to him. Perhaps he can use it as leverage against Demon Lord Valentine, or maybe he will attack Demon Lord Valentine himself, causing even more chaos. The Demon Lords were never known to be a peaceful bunch. While there was not much infighting amongst them, there were no rules against it either, as far as he knew. After all, they still planned against each other and attempted to undermine each other. There was no other explanation for the very visible rivalry between Demon Lord Valentine and Demon Lord Dagrul. Perhaps Demon Lord Felix and Demon Lord Valentine aren't as close as they seem. They may be allied for now, but it may be an alliance of convenience. While Vega could not think of something that could cause two demon lords to ally, he could fully admit that he wasn't the most intelligent man out there. He was best at just listening to his superior's orders. Vega hoped Demon Lord Felix would use the information he offered to attack Demon Lord Valentine. It sounded very enjoyable to slaughter his way through Ruberius. Those fanatics always annoyed him. If there was one thing that Vega knew, it was that to survive, he needed the protection of the strong. At least until he was the strong. Ecchi used to be the strong, but he was dethroned, and so Vega needed to look out for his own interest, and find someone new to serve under. If Demon Lord Felix was weak, he would kill him and devour him, taking the Demon Lord's power for his own, and then move on to Demon Lord Rimuru to repeat the cycle. He was Vega of power, and he would become the strong. I made my way to Sasha's laboratory. She was planning to explore the lower floors of my castle today, and I wanted to tag along for the early bits. I also still had to give her access to teleport around my castle as well, and it was best to do that in person. I knocked on the door to Sasha's laboratory, and after a moment of not hearing a response, I walked in. I spotted Sasha working on a golem in the back of the lab. Huh, has she already begun working on that golem design I gave her? She works quickly. Sasha, are you ready to go? I called out. Ah! She shouted, jumping back and almost dropping one of her tools. Boss. I didn't know you were here. I rolled my eyes. I knocked on the door. You were probably just too focused on your work. Sasha sheepishly rubbed the back of her head. That's probably true. Sorry for ignoring you, boss. It's no problem. I forgot to ask earlier, but how are you settling in? Everything's perfect? Those workers of yours were able to connect everything from my mansion to the LAN really fast. Well, they were trained to do that. It would be a shame if they still failed. Ah. I forgot to hand you this. Archie had thought it was best if you signed a magic contract. Sasha nodded as if she was expecting this. No problem, boss. I thought you would have had me sign one way earlier. Most similar jobs have very strict magic contracts that are signed before anything else. I shrugged my shoulders. To be honest, I didn't really care for it, but Archie had suggested it, I said as I handed Sasha the contract. This is pretty basic stuff. Keep everything I've learned secret, do not help an enemy nation, yada yada. Don't break any laws without consulting Miss Arcuade. I nodded. Yeah, if you want to do anything less than legal, just double check with her, and she'll give you the go-ahead if she thinks it's fine. Huh. Well, that's a new one. Well, alright then. Sasha quickly took out a magic pen from her breast pocket and signed the contract. She handed it back to me. Excellent, now are you ready to go? Sasha nodded. Let me just grab a few things. I don't plan to do any deep excavations today, so I'll be traveling light. I watched as Sasha got a headband with an inbuilt flashlight and placed it on her head. She grabbed her backpack, which seemed to be filled with the essentials. I'm ready. I nodded. Great. And with that, I snapped my fingers, teleporting the both of us to a gate located at the side of my castle. Ugh, I still need to get used to that. Sasha groaned. She then focused on the large double-door gate in front of us. It's kinda weird that there is just a gate located at the side of your castle, you know? I shrugged my shoulders. Don't ask me why it's located here. It's probably just some remnants of when Demon Lord Kaslim ran the place. She didn't seem to be the smartest cookie of the bunch. Sasha looked at me curiously. She? I thought Demon Lord Kaslim was male. I shook my head. She was originally female. Anyways, let's not focus on that right now. Sasha seemed unwilling but nodded nonetheless. You always keep the best secrets, boss. Sasha whined. Maybe I'll tell you some stuff another time as long as you do good work. Sasha gave me a salute. Don't worry, boss. I'll work harder than I ever have before. I just gave her a nod. I then gestured to the gate in front of us. Beyond this gate lies some of my territory's citizens. Originally, this was the primary residence of the majority of my people, but once I got a capital city built around here, they began moving out, though there are still some people who wish to stay here. Sasha nodded. Ah, that's right. I remember hearing that Demon Lord Clayman's territory didn't have many cities or towns. I nodded. Yeah, it really killed the vibe around here, so with Rimuru help, I had the entire surrounding area terraformed and got rid of the curses that Demon Lord Kazlim left behind. Kagli was playing no games. She had a deadly fog surrounding the entire perimeter of the castle, which made it nigh impossible for most to navigate. I'm beginning to become desensitized to all these crazy things you're sharing with me, boss. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Sasha sighed. That's a good thing. I think. I turned towards the gate. Anyways, in order to get through this gate, you need to be pre-approved. I took out a bracelet from my infinity space and handed it to Sasha. That will allow you to freely pass through all the gates down below. Sasha put the bracelet on her wrist and nodded. I snapped my fingers, causing the gates to open in front of us. I gestured to the gate. Ladies first. It didn't take us long to reach the main settlement on the top level. Whoa. This is beautiful. I nodded. Yeah, the Dark Elves really made something great here. Anyways, welcome to Amrita, the home of the Dark Elves. I gestured out grandly. This entire floor is powered by an older magic core that keeps everything running. I continued. There are even day and night cycles. Sasha said with excitement. I nodded. Yeah, it seems Kazlim set up some permanently active magic that syncs with the day and night from outside. She was pretty damn good at magic. Can I go investigate? Sasha asked with what almost seemed to be stars in her eyes. I shrugged my shoulders. Do what you want. And with that, Sasha ran off. Lord Felix. I turned to the voice and smiled as one of the Dark Elves approached me. Hello, Sina. I greeted. Sina bowed to me. Welcome back, Lord Felix. Did you wish for my assistance with anything? I shook my head. No, I was just showing one of my newer subordinates around. I'll introduce her to everyone later since she'll probably be down here somewhat regularly. Sina nodded in understanding. Sina was the Dark Elf, the mayor of sorts of this underground portion assigned her to me. Her job was basically to keep me happy and fulfill all of my desires, no matter what they may be. I couldn't blame the mayor for what he did. Keeping me happy was the best way to keep his people safe. He was practical about it. It was quite sad how Clayman stifled the potential of the Dark Elves under him. According to the mayor, under Cagley, they were the primary military force she relied on. They were pretty damn powerful. The majority of them were easily in the A rank, a good chunk were in the special A rank, and one or two could qualify for disaster class. And Clayman tucked them all away under his palace, filling his army up with random Magin and demi-humans instead. If the original Dark Elves were part of Clayman's main force, then perhaps things would have gone differently. I doubt he would have lived, but who knows? Sometimes a butterfly is all it takes to cause massive changes. It doesn't matter now, anyway. Under Clayman's rule, as the Dark Elves were slowly phased out of the main military, they were posted more towards the rear forces of the military, like being in charge of supplies. Thanks to this, less and less powerful Dark Elves appeared, leading to the current era, where the Dark Elves under Clayman were a shell of their former selves. Of course, I couldn't have that, so I had those who were willing to join the military and told Megaman to begin training them. Raiden also trained some Dark Elves as part of my maid corps, and slowly, the Dark Elves began to shine once more. If you need anything, Lord Felix, just call for me, and I will be there. Sina said. I nodded. I got it. Do you mind if I ask you something, Lord Felix? I looked curiously at Sina. Go for it. Thank you. How are the Dark Elves settling up on the surface world? We have lived down here for so long that it may be a bit of a stress to switch all of a sudden. Ah, right, Sina is one of the Dark Elf elders. It's only right that she is worried about her people. From what I've seen, they've been thriving. Some have even opened shops where they sell their wares. Quite a few of them opened up enchantment shops. It seems enchanting is something you lot are good at. Sina nodded. Enchantment does come easy to us Dark Elves for some reason. Thank you for answering my question, Lord Felix. I waved her off. It's no problem. I sensed Sasha was messing around with the lenses that help transfer the sunlight down here. Anyways, I'll see you around Sina. I appeared next to her and grabbed her shoulder. You can check that out a bit more later. Let me show you around first, then, you are free to do what you wish. Sasha jumped slightly. You scared me there, boss. But fine, I'll listen to you. I nodded. Good. I transported us to the second gate that led to the middle level. The gate opened in front of us. I led Sasha deeper down the corridor until we came across multiple possible ways to go. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of traps along the place, and I don't want you to die while exploring, so I'll make you a map of the place. Sasha's eyes widened. You can do that? I nodded. Yeah, it should be easy. Odin. It has been done. An image of the middle level and lower level appeared in my mind. Kagli had placed some spells to counteract anyone's attempts to map out this entire floor, but her spells stood no chance against Odin. Alright, it's done. Now come here. Sasha nodded and came towards me. I placed my hand on her head and transferred the necessary information. Whoa. That felt really weird. Oh wow, Demon Lord Kazlim really placed a lot of traps. Sasha pointed to the right down one of the corridors. There is a poison dart trap down there, a pitfall trap over there. Oh man, it would have taken a long time to navigate this on my own. Thanks, boss. No problem. Anyway, that's all I wanted to show you. If you need some men to help you with this, then just ask Arcuade. She'll assign suitable people. Sasha nodded. Got it. I gave Sasha one final nod and then teleported back to my office. Hopefully, Sasha can discover some interesting stuff down there. I could probably single-handedly loot the middle level and bottom level on my own, but I'd rather not. I'll leave all that work to my Miniokov to my subordinates. Chapter 128, Magicule Circulation. How is the rebuilding of the Beast Kingdom Urazania going? It is going well, Master. Everything is being built to your and Carrion's specifications. Raiden responded. It's being rebuilt by some of the lycanthropes who wanted to learn how to build as well as a portion of our own workers, right? That is correct. Carrion and Albus are supervising the project. The lycanthropes likely hope that by assisting with a rebuilding of Carrion's kingdom, they may be noticed by either Albus or Carrion. I nodded. The Beast Kingdom Urazania practiced the standard beastman macho bullshit. They technically had slaves, but it was a bit different from how human kingdoms had slaves. In the Beast Kingdom Urazania, basically whoever was stronger could order those weaker than them around. So it wasn't really slavery, more like the weak were forced to do what the strong told them. I didn't like this culture all that much, but I wasn't willing to change their entire way of life, nor did I care. They had been living like that for centuries, if not thousands of years, and were accepting of that way of life. It was literally coded into them to worship and obey the strong. They were designed to be that way. Still, I ordered Carrion to begin having free training sessions that anyone could join. During those training sessions, there would be no bullying of the weak, and one could not stop someone from attending the training sessions. Hopefully, this gives the weak a chance to rise up and become one of the strong. That was the most I was willing to do to help those less fortunate. The Beast Kingdom Urazania had its own culture, and it has been working fine until now. Even Carrion had to suffer under the current system before he inherited the mantle of Beast King from his father. I never claimed to be an enforcer of justice and freedom, after all. This world sucked, but I felt no desire to change it. Call me a cruel monarch, but I had made my choice. Things will turn out alright with the Beast Kingdom Urazania, probably. I leaned back on my throne and lost myself to my thoughts. My thought acceleration was at a factor of 10 million. That makes it so a single second feels like 2,778 hours, or about 116 days. Something even I knew was absurd, but it gave me more than enough time to just close my eyes and relax, so there was no way I was going to complain. After some time, I called Raiden. Could you call Ingvild, Raiden? Very well, Master. Responded Raiden. I saw a blitz of lightning run past me as I lounged back on my throne. I wanted to get the conversation I wanted to have with Ingvild out of the way. The universe of DXD, or rather, what should be its universe, doesn't actually exist yet. The nature of the multiverse is that it's always growing, always dying. Universes are constantly being born and extinguished. Veldin might have kickstarted everything at the beginning, but creation and destruction continue, even in his absence. According to Odin, the universe of DXD hasn't even been born yet. Theoretically, using the space-time coordinates embedded in Ingvild's soul, it should still be possible to travel there, but we'd be journeying into the future of the multiverse, not the present that I live in. Even if time can function differently from world to world, we are still in one time period of this multiverse. Traveling to DXD would put me into the far future time period of this multiverse. Time is confusing like that. Messing with time does make me wary. There are many risks. For one, I do not know what rules Veldin set. I know for a fact he did set rules on reality. For all I know, traveling to the future may be one of them. I was immortal. I had a practically infinite lifespan due to my divine nature as well as being a demon. The only way I can die is if I am killed, which will get harder and harder to do as time goes on. Even if I do die, After a couple of centuries, I'll be reborn in the demon realm, though I'd rather that it doesn't happen. I don't know if I will keep the same personality or if I will lose all of my skills, so I might as well consider that as death. A new Felix may be born, but he might not be the current me. I'd rather I just never die at all. I'll eventually learn to handle the boredom that comes with true immortality. I doubt I'll be all that bored, though. I have many plague Rikov worlds to mess around in. Ingvild is also immortal with an almost infinite lifespan, though she is easier to kill than I am. Any true spiritual beings are, at the very least, nigh ageless. The only way to kill them is to destroy their core. Kagli was able to wander around for centuries with just her astral body, and that was just due to her nature as a deathman. I don't see either Ingvild or me dying anytime soon. In that case, would it not be better to wait until DXD is naturally born and save Ingvild's mother from her early demise while we're at it as well? While that may not have happened in the universe Ingvild came from, in the so-called canon of that universe, Ingvild's mother died while Ingvild was in her eternal sleep. Ingvild awoke due to basically a miracle and was left stranded in a time she knew nothing about. To the point that she latched onto Sai-Hyotu, of all people. If we go to DXD at some point after her death, I do not think I will be capable of reviving her, while DXD does have its own natural cycle of souls. If I recall correctly, the souls of devils are just erased at the moment of their death. It would be impossible to revive her if her soul just straight up does not exist anymore. Since I am not yet capable of straight up time travel, I won't be able to travel to the past of DXD, pluck her mother's soul, and bring it to the present. Such a thing is beyond me for now. All our Abros allows me to do is travel to the precise space-time coordinates of the various dimensions out there. Odin can also manually scour the multiverse for various dimensions, which is how I can gain access to the magma dimension, the ice dimension, and all of those other various dimensions. However, Odin can only manually locate dimensions that currently exist, so she wouldn't find the DXD Ingvild was from like that. It was a very caveman-like way of finding other dimensions, but it worked. I have found a few dimensions I want to visit already. Not to mention, there was another reason I was hesitant to travel to the future of this multiverse. I had no idea if the voice of the world would punish something like that. If Veldinara set a rule against time traveling to the future, I don't doubt that the voice of the world would enforce that rule. A knock on the door broke me from my thoughts. "Come in, Ingvild." I called out. The door opened, and in came Ingvild. I was currently sitting in my study behind my desk. I gestured to the seat on the other side of my desk. "Take a seat." I noticed that Ingvild seemed nervous as she sat down. "No need to worry. You aren't in trouble or anything. I just wanted to talk about returning to your original world." I noticed a light of hope enter Ingvild's eyes. It pained me somewhat to pour cold water over the poor girl. "So there are some issues. Basically, you were summoned from the far future. Your universe has not been born yet. Best to rip the band-aid off immediately." Ingvild blinked. "Huh? I was summoned from the future?" I nodded. "That is correct. Theoretically, I can time travel to the future, to your world in particular, however, that does come with some risks. The only reason I can't time travel is that the coordinates are not simple. It's not as simple as subtracting a 1 from the coordinates to go 1 year or 1 day back. No, the coordinates would be completely different. It would be impossible to come up with those coordinates without incredibly detailed analysis. The only reason I was able to appear a bit in the future of the world I was summoned from was due to time moving a bit differently in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen than it did here in the Cardinal world. I'm sure the same is true for many other worlds out there. I just chalked it up to time bullshit and left it at that. Time was way too confusing for me to attempt to truly understand now. The main risk is that the voice of the world may not like such a thing as traveling to the future. Ingvild's eyes widened upon hearing me. She knew what the voice of the world was. She nervously bit her lips. I don't want to put you or anyone else at risk." I smiled at Ingvild's pure-hearted wish. "There is another benefit to waiting until I have a better understanding of everything. If my suspicions are right, the moment we travel to, your mother will already have passed on." Ingvild froze for a moment. I gave her a moment to process everything before continuing. "In that scenario, from what I know about the devils of that world, your mother's soul will basically be gone. I will not be able to revive her. However, both of us are ageless beings. We can afford to wait until the universe is born and then intervene at the perfect moment so that you can meet and prevent the death of your mother. You can even meet your father again and bring him over here if you want." Ingvild nodded, her eyes lighting up with hope again. "Now, I'm not saying I am 100% right. I could be wrong." Ingvild bit her lip. I think I want to wait. I do not want to risk the chance of losing my old family even if I made a new one." Ingvild said as she looked away from me. "How cute. Haha, I think everyone will be happy to hear that, Ingvild." I sighed. I'm sorry for not being able to keep my promise to you. I did genuinely feel bad for that. I did not like breaking my word. However, my word was not as important to me as my safety and the safety of those close to me. I simply was not willing to risk crossing the voice of the world, even if the chances were low. Ingvild hurriedly waved her hands. You didn't break anything. You are still going to be taking me to my home world, right? I nodded. Ingvild smiled. Then you didn't break your promise. It's just going to be a bit delayed. Ah, an angel. Ingvild is an angel, Amu. It's not like I mind waiting. I've already been without my mother for a long time. I'm okay waiting a little bit longer. I can have even more stories to tell her now. Ingvild said with a happy smile. I smiled hearing her. Now the plan was to wait for Odin to decipher the coordinates for the past of Ingvild's world, or for her universe to naturally be born, yoink her parents' souls and bring them to the future of DXD when I go visit that boob-infested world. You don't have anyone else you want to see and perhaps bring over? Ingvild shook her head. No. I didn't have many friends. That's depressing. But not that weird. Ingvild did not come from the modern era. The world was different back then. Women didn't really have any rights, not to mention that Ingvild's mother likely kept her fairly hidden. A half-devil descendant of Leviathan would attract a lot of unwanted attention after all. I see. Well, thanks for understanding, Ingvild. If you're not busy, why don't we play some music together? I'm not the best, but I used to play the piano. Hearing me, a giddy smile appeared on Ingvild's face. Yes, Sasagio. Sasagio. Shinzu wo Sasagio. Sabit no jai sai wa imkono toki no tame ni. I continued to lightly sing one of the best anime openings of all time as I made my way to Lalitina's room. It's about time I ask what reward she wants for her hard work, though I have a feeling I know what she is going to ask for. Ingvild and I had messed around with quite a few anime openings I knew of. With Odin I could easily recreate the sheet music. It was even possible to become an absolute master at any instrument with Odin, though I didn't do that. Playing the piano was something I learned through my own hard work. I didn't want to taint that by just cheating my way to the top, at least when it came to that. Combat power was different. I'd cheat when it came to power in an instant with zero hesitation, but playing the piano was just a fun hobby. It didn't take me long to reach Lalitina's room. By now, she should be done with all her duties for the day. Lalitina herself didn't do all that much work, she just told her subordinates what to do, and they followed her orders. Lalitina's job, in general, was to keep me informed about everything going on in my territory, the Western nations, and the other demon lords' territories. She has had time to develop her agents and has them spread all over, developing a solid information network. Guess being Insold has to count for something. Lalitina is quite capable and very competent. I'm not sure how Rain is just so pathetic at her job. Whenever I think about her, I feel bad for Guy. Truly, I have all the luck. I don't know what I would have done if I summoned Rain instead of either Arcuaid, Megaman, or Lalitina. I think I'd cry. I knocked on Lalitina's door. Master? Come in. From Lalitina's suggestive tone of voice, I already knew what was going to happen, and I was sure as hell that I wasn't going to complain. I opened the door and spotted Lalitina laying on her bed in a suggestive pose. She was clothed in just her lingerie as well as the collar I had gifted her and was staring at me with a seductive smirk. I'm guessing the moment she sensed me approaching, she instantly began making preparations. Magic was useful like that. I rolled my eyes. I just wanted to ask what you wanted as a reward for performing your duties so well. I chuckled. At first, I wasn't actually certain if Lalitina would be capable of doing everything I asked of her.